Chapter 2000. In the heaven vault, numerous floating palaces could be seen, bathing in boundless astral light, exuding a majestic aura. At this moment, the Qiankuan sect leader and 9 heavens mystical maiden came to a floating palace. This floating palace was located in the center. It was none other than the place where Qin Wendian resided. Outside the palace, there were many experts guarding it. Right now, there were already many people in the heaven vault. This floating palace wasn't a place they could easily disturb. After all, Qin Wendian resided there, as well as his family and friends. The Qiankuan sect leader and 9 heavens mystical maiden glanced at the two figures guarding the floating palace. One of them radiated devil might, like a devil god, while the other radiated a powerful battle intent. Their existences caused the hearts of the Qiankuan sect leader and 9 heavens mystical maiden to involuntarily tremble violently. Because, the two guards of the floating palace were actually heavenly deities. Heavenly deities guarding the entrance, who else could there be in the supreme ancient immortal realms? As the Qiankuan sect leader and 9 heavens mystical maiden, they naturally had vast experiences and there was nothing that could shock them. But this time around, when they came to the heaven vault, even before they saw Qin Wendian, they were already deeply shocked. Heavenly deities guarding the entrance, there was no need to explain what this meant. This meant that the current heaven vault, the number of heavenly deities was most probably already. When they thought of this, their hearts trembled again. However, they still did their best to endure it as they walked into the floating palace. On the way there, they met some people. Just like what they expected, many of the people they met were at the heavenly deity realm. It was like in this place, heavenly deities were no different from mortals. Finally, they came to a place. Qin Wendian appeared before them and smiled. Sect leader and 9 heavens mystical maiden, please forgive me for not being able to welcome you. The two of them surveyed Qin Wendian. Right now, Qin Wendian was even more imposing than before. With a single glance, he gave off an unfathomable feeling. Back then, he was already the number 1 genius of the supreme ancient immortal realms who could suppress the Thunder Clan leader. Right now, it was already unimaginable how strong his cultivation base was. But there was no doubt that he was more than enough to deal with the two of them. This point was still something they could accept. The Qiankuan sect leader smiled bitterly. Earlier, he still felt unhappy in his heart because Qin Wendian directly summoned them but didn't welcome them. But after they came here, this feeling vanished. He truly understood that right now, Qin Wendian's status was no longer the same level as him. If they could meet him now, this was already a sign of respect. If not, given how they had betrayed the alliance back then, so what? Wendian clan sect leader didn't. Qin Chen Kenin sect, it. Qin, Chen, and sect, sit. Qin Wendian stretched out his hand. The Qiankuan sect leader and 9 heavens mystical maiden nodded lightly. After that, they sat down in front of Qin Wendian. Beside them, a beautiful maiden walked over to pour tea for them. This maiden was pure and beautiful, like someone from a painting. However, what shocked the Qiankuan sect leader and 9 heavens mystical maiden was her cultivation base. She was a heavenly deity. They could sense that the majority of the people in Qin Wendian's floating palace were heavenly deities. Sect leader Qin, this maiden's beauty is outstanding. I wonder who you are. The Qiankuan sect leader probed, wanting to know the identity of this maiden. I'm a maid by the sect leader's side. I'm responsible for taking care of the sect leader's daily needs. The beautiful maiden blinked her eyes, appearing extremely mischievous. The Qiankuan sect leader perspired. A heavenly deity as a maid. He felt that his heart was pounding faster than before. Sect leader, don't listen to this lass's nonsense. Her name is Nanfeng Xinga, she's a good friend of mine. We're already acquainted with each other in Azure Mystic. Qin Wendian rolled his eyes at Nanfeng Xinga. Nanfeng Xinga didn't mind and smiled mischievously. So this is the case. The Qiankuan sect leader nodded lightly, but he sighed in his heart. This was the true meaning of when a man achieved the Tao, his chickens and dogs also ascended to the heavens. The good friends and subordinates he brought back from Azure Mystic were all heavenly deities now. Was the Heaven Vault really so mystical? He was thinking that if they didn't betray the alliance back then, would an army of heavenly deities appear in their Qiankuan sect now? Sect leader Qin, the flow of time in this floating palace should be different from the outside world, right? I actually can't sense how much the flow of time has changed. The Nine Heavens mystical maiden curiously asked. How could she not be shocked? Even a maiden from Azure Mystic was already a heavenly deity. Other than the Heaven Vault, this holy land for cultivation, most probably, time was something that couldn't be neglected. Right now, the flow of time here is already close to 1,000 times faster than the outside world. Qin Wentian smiled. The Nine Heavens mystical maiden nodded. No wonder, the Heaven Vault had a unique advantage in terms of cultivation, allowing one to comprehend the Tao on the constellations in the sky. In addition to the change in the flow of time, too many years have passed here. Right now, they could already be certain that heavenly deities were no longer rare in the Heaven Vault. Most probably, they could be seen everywhere. The Qiankuan sect leader and Nine Heavens mystical maiden exchanged mutual glances. They initially came here because they wanted to discuss some conditions. But now, they no longer had any confidence at all. Right now, it seemed that having the Qiankuan sect and the Nine Heavens mystical palace in the Heaven Vault wasn't of much use anymore. Wentian, for some things in the past, we were also forced to do so. I'm sure you should know how strong the Western world is. That God King has never appeared, and that by itself is already a huge threat. Back then, they wanted us to leave the Heaven Vault, we were also helpless. The Qiankuan sect leader slowly spoke. Qin Wentian waved his hand, stopping him from continuing. He smiled, Sect leader, there's no need for you to explain anything. With regards to this, I understand and can understand. In addition, back then, I fought shoulder to shoulder with sect leader and fairy before. I won't place such a minor matter in my heart. The Qiankuan sect leader and Nine Heavens mystical maiden's choice wasn't wrong. They did it for themselves. None of them wanted to face the Western world head-on. In that case, I can set my heart at ease. The Qiankuan sect leader nodded lightly. Qin Wentian lifted his teacup and took a sip. He didn't say anything. He believed that the Qiankuan sect leader and Nine Heavens mystical maiden didn't come here just to apologize. If they wanted to apologize, they would have come long ago. Why would they wait until now? At this moment, Qin Wentian was waiting for the Qiankuan sect leader to speak. As expected, after a moment of silence, the Qiankuan sect leader spoke. Sect leader Qin, this time around, other than apologizing for some matters in the past, we also hope to form an alliance with the Heaven Vault. Alliance? Jun Mengchen, who was at the side, frowned. Do you think that given the current strength of our Heaven Vault, we still need an alliance like the Qiankuan sect? In addition, an alliance that might abandon you the moment you encounter danger. What's the point of having an alliance like this? The Qiankuan sect leader had an awkward expression on his face, but he had no way to refute Jun Mengchen's words. Although his words weren't pleasant to the ears, Jun Mengchen's words sounded like the truth. Before this, they were still confident that the Heaven Vault needed their strength. But recently, such confidence had completely vanished. But it was precisely because he saw how strong the Heaven Vault was that he was even more determined to form an alliance with the Heaven Vault. Right now, there were 3 hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Their Qiankuan sect and Nine Heavens mystical palaces' positions were extremely awkward. Maybe, they didn't need to choose a side and might be able to safely pass the day when the 3 hegemonic powers were determined. But what about after that day? What would the Qiankuan sect and Nine Heavens mystical palace do? Once the Western Paradise became the king of the supreme ancient immortal realms, everyone in the world would cultivate the Buddhist Tao. Most probably, they would have nothing to do with it anymore. If Yu Changkong won, that would be even more terrifying. Back then, God King Gu was already a reclusive and evil person. If he became the king, the Qiankuan sect and Nine Heavens mystical palace wouldn't have a good ending. They only trusted Qin Wentian's character. They hoped that Qin Wentian would win. Also, after coming to the Heaven Vault, they felt that the possibility of the Heaven Vault becoming the king was very high. Since they supported Qin Wentian, it would naturally be better if they joined before the victor was determined. At that time, they would no longer be in an alliance, they would have to submit to him. Their statuses would be completely different. Just by looking at Jun Mengchen's attitude, they knew that once the Heaven Vault became the king, the people around Qin Wentian would definitely look down on them. If they joined now, they would still be able to fight side by side. This time around, Qin Wentian didn't stop Jun Mengchen. From the looks of it, although Qin Wentian didn't hate them for betraying the alliance, it wouldn't be easy for him to accept them again. The matter in the past was indeed our fault. In the future, such a thing will definitely not happen again. Right now, the situation in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms is already very clear. Since we joined the Heaven Vault, it means that we are completely tied together with the Heaven Vault. The Qiankuan sect leader explained. Easy to say. What if the Heaven Vault starts a war against the other two hegemonic powers when they are at a disadvantage? What if the other two hegemonic powers tempt you guys to betray them and deal with the Heaven Vault instead? Senior brother, you have to be on guard against the mistakes of others. Jun Mengchen spoke. You are going overboard. The beautiful eyes of the Nine Heavens mystical maiden stared at Jun Mengchen. How can we be such people? Whether we are or not isn't something that can be said with words. Jun Mengchen calmly spoke. Qin Wentian turned his gaze to Nanfeng Shinga, who was at the side, as he asked, Shinga, what do you think? Nanfeng Shinga warmly smiled. Shinga naturally believes in the sincerity and character of sect leader and fairy Qiankuan. But after all, that unhappy incident has already happened before. It's impossible for the Heaven Vault to completely accept them without harboring any ill feelings in their hearts. If sect leader and fairy Qiankuan are truly sincere, you can bring your people into the Qin Heavenly Divine sect and become one of our factions. In the future, we will see sect leader and fairy Qiankuan's performance before we decide if we will allow the experts from the Qiankuan sect and Nine Heavens Mystical Palace to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation. If not, if sect leader and fairy Qiankuan's strength is too great and there's another unhappy incident, it would be a calamity to our Heaven Vault. The Qiankuan sect leader had an unhappy expression on his face. Qin Wentian smiled. Sect leader, fairy Qiankuan, let's not talk about such unhappy matters for now. No matter what, we have fought side by side before. Even if one day the Heaven Vault becomes the king of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, we definitely won't make things difficult for the two of you. The Qiankuan sect leader and Nine Heavens mystical maiden sighed silently in their hearts. Qin Wentian's words indicated that he had tacitly agreed to Nanfeng Shinga's words. After all, they betrayed the Heaven Vault first. If Qin Wentian accepted them like before, it would be hard to convince everyone. The Heaven Vault was no longer the Heaven Vault of the past. It was now one of the three hegemons of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. After casually chatting for some time, the Qiankuan sect leader and Nine Heavens mystical maiden bid farewell and left. Before they left, they inclined their heads and glanced at the sky. The Qiankuan sect leader had a feeling of a hero past his prime. The era has changed. The world now was no longer their world. Several days later, news circulated out of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. The Qiankuan sect and Nine Heavens Mystical Palace have moved to the Heaven Vault. This time around, they didn't form an alliance. They joined them. Chapter 2001. With the addition of the Qiankuan sect and Nine Heavens Mystical Palace, the strength of these three hegemonic powers became even more stable. In the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, other than these three hegemonic powers, there weren't any other peak powers. In the boundless starry space of the Heaven Vault, a strange scene could be seen. A gigantic golden demon had golden pores all over his body, devouring the astral light. Boundless astral light flowed into his body, causing his gigantic body to shine with a resplendent light. He was like a divine beast in the starry space. In the Heaven Vault, countless people saw this scene. Qin Wentian stood at the boundary of the floating palace, staring up at the starry space. Beside him, Qingqing quietly leaned against him. They were a pair of matchless lovers. Right now, Mo Qingqing's cultivation base has also broken through to the heavenly deity realm. Although her talent was slightly inferior, after cultivating for tens of millions of years in the secret realm, in addition to the cultivation conditions Qin Wentian created for her, she finally comprehended the heavenly Tao and stepped into the deity realm. Not only for her, just like what the Qiankuan sect leader and 9 heavens mystical maidens saw back then, the heaven vault now had an army of heavenly deities. If one didn't enter the heaven vault, they wouldn't be able to imagine such a grand scene. Little rascal is growing more and more powerful. Mo Qingqing gently spoke. Everyone in the heaven vault was growing stronger, but they still chose to remain in seclusion. They had time to wait. The heaven vault would only grow stronger as time passed. Little rascal can already absorb the astral daos of the various heavenly deities. It's rumored that the ancient heaven-devouring beasts could devour the sun, moon, and constellations. This isn't a lie. Qin Wentian nodded lightly. At this moment, the gigantic body in the starry space started trembling and the tremors grew increasingly intense. What's going on? Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. Such a situation had never appeared before. What was happening to little rascal? What's going on? Mo Qingqing asked in a light voice. Let me take a look. Qin Wentian's silhouette flashed as he soared through the air, swiftly arriving in the starry space. His body passed by little rascal's gigantic body and arrived before its head. Little rascal's eyes were closed, its gigantic body was trembling violently as it let out a low-sounding roar. No, don't. Little rascal shook his head unceasingly as his body trembled even more intensely. Qin Wentian furrowed his brows. He placed his palm on little rascal's face as a mysterious energy flowed into him. No. With a loud roar, the starry sky shook, and the stars in the sky seemed to tremble. The huge eyes opened, and he saw Qin Wentian. Wentian. Little rascal called out in a light voice. What happened? Qin Wentian asked softly. I seem to have seen my parents. Little rascal spoke, his words causing Qin Wentian's body to tremble. Little rascal was a heaven-devouring beast king. Back then when he met Mo Qingqing, it was all because of him. But at that time, little rascal was already alone, he had no companions or relatives. He was born with many unique abilities. Once, he was also curious. What sort of people would little rascal's parents be? Could the parents of a heaven-devouring beast king be simple? Demon gods were different from humans. Although the bloodline of humans was important, they could still cultivate later on. But for demonic beasts, their bloodline was even more important. For example, little rascal was a heaven-devouring beast king. How could his parents be ordinary demonic beasts? They must surely be incomparably powerful heaven-devouring beasts. How did you see them? Qin Wentian asked. Little rascal was cultivating here and didn't exit the heaven vault. How could he see his parents? Earlier when I was cultivating and devouring the Tao of the constellations, it felt like I entered a dream and saw my parents. They were the same as me, devouring the constellations. At that instant, it felt like I passed through time and saw my parents. They appeared in my memories. Little rascal's eyes turned red, as though he was extremely agitated. The scenes he saw earlier continued to play out in his mind. Did you leave anything behind to know how they are now? Qin Wentian asked. No, something happened to them. They wanted to devour the constellations but suffered a backlash and were heavily injured. After that, a blurry figure appeared and acted against them. As for what happened after that, I have no way to see it. Little rascal gritted his teeth and roared in a low voice, my parents are there. Who is that blurry figure? He actually dared to take advantage of them. Despicable. Devouring the constellations? Qin Wentian's heart pounded violently. This was too crazy, little rascal's origin was actually so terrifying. He thought of some things in his mind and had some conjectures, but he still felt that this was unbelievable. Could this be real? Let's go back and take a rest first. Qin Wentian spoke in a light voice. Little rascal nodded. After that, his gigantic body shrunk back to the size of a snow-white little demon, returning to his adorable appearance as he leaped into Qin Wentian's embrace. Qin Wentian returned, his eyes gleamed with sharpness. Little Rascal's words earlier caused him to feel an impulse to help Little Rascal find out his origins. After returning to the floating palace, Qin Wentian told Little Rascal to go and rest while he went to look for his father Qin Yuanfeng and grandfather Luo Chuan. The three of them gathered together. Wentian, do you have anything you want to ask? Luo Chuan asked. Grandfather, I once heard you mentioning some things about the God King of the 8 regions. In the ancient records, the God King of the Desolate region has the title of Desolate. There are no other names that have been passed down. Grandfather once said that God King Desolate might not be a human but a demonic beast instead. Is that right? Qin Wentian asked. The era of the God Kings of the 8 regions is too long ago. Many ancient records are incomplete and there's no way to verify them. The people of the world only know about them from the ancient records that have been passed down. I once understood the history of the Desolate region, and according to my conjecture, God King Desolate might really be a demonic beast. I remember I once saw a tattered ancient record that recorded some of the deeds of God King Desolate. He could devour the sun and moon, pluck the stars from the heavens. According to those clues, God King Desolate's true form might be the same as your demonic beast companion, a heaven-devouring beast. Luo Chuan spoke. Naturally, the ancient records can no longer be found. This is merely my conjecture. Wentian, you are asking about this because you discovered something? Luo Chuan was somewhat curious. Qin Wentian nodded. Not long ago, Little Rascal was cultivating in the starry space. According to him, a dreamlike memory appeared in his mind. He saw his parents devouring the constellations in the starry space and suffered a backlash. After that, they were ambushed by a mysterious person, and I don't know what happened after that. Hence, I have a conjecture, but the timing doesn't match up at all. Hence, I wanted to ask my grandfather and father. There's no problem with the timing. Qin Yuanfeng spoke. At the God King realm, there's nothing strange about any methods. The moon god created the divine mausoleum and returned countless years later. If God King Desolate really had a descendant back then, he might have arranged for his descendant to appear in the world countless years later. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. If this was the case, it was truly possible. But who was the person who ambushed Little Rascal's parents back then? Qin Wentian spoke in a light voice. Most probably, they had to find that person before they could get an answer. If your conjecture is right, Little Rascal is the descendant of God King Desolate. In that case, even if his parents were heavily injured, the person who dared to ambush them shouldn't be too much weaker. There's a high possibility that he is in existence on the same level as God King Desolate. Qin Yuanfeng replied. Luo Chuan nodded as well. At the God King realm, even if they were injured, heavenly deities wouldn't be able to deal with them. In that case, there's a high possibility that the other God Kings are here. Yu Changkong might know something about this. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. Could his conjecture be correct? Right now, Little Rascal's performance was getting more and more heaven-defying. If not, he wouldn't have made such a bold conjecture. In an independent spacetime in the Western Paradise, there was a golden world with golden Buddhic light. These Buddhic lights were like holy light, illuminating the entire golden world. In this golden world, there was actually an incomparably gigantic figure. This figure seemed somewhat illusory and surreal, like it would vanish at any moment. Golden and holy Buddhic lights locked onto his gigantic body. Every part of his body seemed to have a Buddha lamp burning. These Buddhic lamps were connected together, transforming into a terrifying chain. At this moment, a blurry figure suddenly appeared in the Buddhic light. This figure was also illusory, one couldn't see his features clearly. His palms were pressed together, clearly, he was a Buddhist cultivator. After he came to this spacetime, the Buddhic lamps all flowed into his body. As the Buddhic lights entered his body, his illusory body seemed to become more corporeal. It has been so many years. Have you not recovered yet? That gigantic figure suddenly opened his eyes and spoke with an incomparably imposing and cold voice. Although he was very weak, he still exuded a terrifying aura. Slowly strip away the heavenly Taos you once devoured. One day, when you vanish, my Tao will be close to reaching grand completion. In the future, when I verify my Tao and transcend the 9 heavenly layers, you will have to play a part in it. The monk spoke in a light voice, his voice was ethereal and somewhat surreal. Do you think you can succeed? Countless years ago, I already saw the future. Your destruction isn't far away anymore. So, you sent your descendant to this era? The monk calmly spoke, his words causing that gigantic figure to tremble violently. After that, he asked, my descendant? It's fine if you don't want to admit it. He has already appeared. I didn't expect that back then, you still had a trump card hidden up your sleeves. Sadly, all of this will only benefit me. That monk's voice didn't fluctuate at all. He continued to absorb the Buddhic light bit by bit, and only after a long time did he leave this spacetime. That gigantic figure abruptly let out a heaven-shaking roar, as though he was greatly stimulated. Has he already arrived at this era? He really wanted to go out and take a look. Chapter 2002. The ruins of the Che clan was once turned into ruins when the Che clan left. But now, it was filled with magnificence and magnificence. Numerous majestic palaces could be seen, and this place didn't belong to a single power. It was occupied by many powers. Right now, the 3 hegemons of the supreme ancient immortal realms might not be interested in the ruins of the Che clan. But to the other hegemons of the supreme ancient immortal realms, this place was a priceless treasure. During these years, many battles were fought and a balance was reached. Some hegemons occupied this place and refused to leave, wanting to continue excavating the treasures of the Che clan. Once, the Che clan was extremely prosperous and was comparable to an entire country. It wouldn't be so easy to excavate all the treasures here. However, these hegemons didn't know that in another spacetime below the ruins, the experts of the Che clan were all here. Golden divine flames burned the world as a gigantic world furnace appeared in this space. It was like the flames of primordial chaos, exuding a heaven-shaking might. Countless divine formations could be seen inscribed in the surroundings. If there weren't these divine formations, the primordial chaos divine flames would be able to easily destroy this entire space. But even with the divine formations, at this moment, there were signs of it failing to suppress the flames. Within the primordial chaos divine flames, a blurry chaotic divine weapon could be seen. It constantly transformed into different forms and spewed out energy that destroyed the divine formations bit by bit, wanting to break free from the restraints and tear this space apart. How can this be? The expression of the Che clan leader was extremely unsightly. They spent so much effort, generations after generations of Che clan experts worked hard, and many heavenly deities died for it. But in the end, the divine weapon they created was actually unable to suppress the flames. Did their Che clan not have enough Tao arts to allow it to take form? He was unwilling to accept this. This divine weapon was the final hope of the Che clan. Once it failed, the Che clan would be destroyed, no longer existing. In the surroundings of the primordial chaos divine flames, countless experts of the Che clan were working hard, channeling all their energy into the primordial chaos divine flames, wanting to control it. They infused their Tao arts into it, attempting to form a connection with it and form a resonance with it. However, the primordial chaos divine flames spewed forth a terrifying amount of energy, transforming into a chaotic vortex that frenziedly devoured the Taos of everyone. However, there was no resonance at all. Careful, it is suffering a backlash. A heavenly deity called out. After that, an expert from the Che clan screamed in agony as he directly turned into ashes, becoming a part of the primordial chaos divine flames. Boom! The divine flame spat out a terrifying power. That terrifying vortex roared, and soon after, people continuously released miserable cries as they turned into ashes. They were all swept into the divine flame, turned into ashes, and then absorbed by that vortex. Patriarch. Many people turned their gazes to the Che clan leader. Che Ho's countenance turned ashen. The hard work of the generations, the blood and sweat of the entire clan, was all for the sake of creating such an uncontrollable monster. They were just one step away from the birth of the divine weapon, but they were unable to control their strength. Che Ho's expression contorted as he coldly spoke, "Subdue it. If it destroys this entire space, the Che clan will perish as well." The experts of the Che clan all had crazed looks on their faces. They understood that what their patriarch said was the truth. The power of this divine weapon was too powerful. If they couldn't suppress it, this entire space would be destroyed and the Che clan would vanish as well. They frenziedly unleashed their strength, trying to suppress it, activating the divine formation, but it was useless. That terrifying vortex devoured all energy, the divine flames roared, soaring up into the sky, igniting the entire space. The experts of the Che clan were all swept into it. A roar of rage rang out. This was the roar of a heavenly deity. However, it was useless. He was also swept into the vortex, becoming a part of the primordial chaos divine flames. The golden divine flames burned the sky. Within the primordial chaos vortex, a human-shaped face actually appeared. It was like a devil, causing the entire space to wail in agony. This was a calamity for the Che clan. When Che Ho saw this scene, a look of pain could be seen in his eyes. The Che clan was actually going to be destroyed because of the divine weapon they spent their entire lives to create. How ironic was this? He was unwilling to accept this. Countless divine formations covered the entire space. Che Ho held the scepter in his hand, wanting to refine the heavens. He took a step forward as his world refinement force gushed forth, locking onto the devil-like figure that was born from the primordial chaos divine flames. That figure inclined its head and stared at Che Ho. It was like it had a life of its own, causing Che Ho's heart to violently tremble. "Since you guys created me, why is there a need to resist? Just infuse the life force and energy of all of you into me and I will naturally be able to fulfill your wish. You gave everything you had and created me." That devil-like figure spoke, actually speaking in human language. Cold, there were no traces of emotions in his voice. He wasn't a human, he was a weapon forged by the Che clan. "We created you, but we didn't expect you to devour us instead." Che Ho coldly spoke. "From their memories, I learned that your purpose in creating me was to create a divine weapon that can transcend everything. Since this is the case, you should know that your strength isn't enough to control me. If you can control me, I won't be able to achieve your goal. Don't you understand all of this? Are you stupid?" The cold mechanical voice rang out again. Che Ho's expression turned unsightly, he was actually speechless. Indeed, they wanted to create a divine weapon that could transcend everything. This naturally exceeded the scope of their abilities. How could it be something they could control? Weren't they reaping the consequences of their own actions? "I didn't expect that I would create a monster like you." Che Ho sighed. Was this the fate of their Che clan? Maybe. The cold voice rang out again. This entire space was being destroyed. Countless people from the Che clan were killed, becoming a part of the divine weapon. That devil-like figure actually let out a sigh. "I was created by you guys and ultimately, I'm still influenced by you guys. This obsession of yours is so strong. Since this is the case, from now on, you are me and I am you." As the sound of his voice faded, that divine weapon directly broke through Che Ho's world refinement force and devoured his body. After that, the divine weapon slowly merged into his body. Che Ho's body trembled violently, he felt like he was being possessed by a devil. In this world, boundless energy frenziedly gushed into his body, wanting to digest all the energy in this world. The terrifying chaos divine flames broke through everything, tearing this space apart. In the ruins of the Che clan, there were still many people exploring it. In fact, there were even some conflicts as many people were in confrontation. However, at this moment, the entire world seemed to tremble. After that, the space was torn apart as a destructive might erupted forth. In the dimension, a beam of light that could tear everything apart appeared. No. Someone reacted, but it was already too late. That beam of light erupted forth, turning everything into ashes. In the ruins of the Che clan, the buildings that were rebuilt were all destroyed once more, turning into ruins. This beam of light not only devoured the ruins of the Che clan, it was also expanding outwards unceasingly, like it had the power to destroy the world, unceasingly destroying everything. The people from afar only saw the light of destruction. After that, that surge of energy gushed over, enveloping them as well. This terrifying beam of light shot up into the clouds, wanting to break apart the 9 heavens. The majestic city that the Che clan was in was destroyed. The entire city was destroyed, turning into ruins. That beam of light could be seen by countless people in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Their hearts trembled violently. What happened to the Che clan? At this moment, above the ruins, the Che clan leader, Che Ho, stood there. His aura had undergone a heaven-shaking transformation compared to the past. He was like a cold divine weapon, so cold that it caused people to feel fear. Right now, he was the divine weapon was him. The Che clan, the hard work of generations after generations, using the strength of the entire clan to forge a supreme divine weapon. But in the end, the backlash destroyed the entire Che clan. However, the obsession of the experts of the Che clan also influenced that divine weapon. Hence, all of this resulted in the current him. He, Che Ho, was no longer the Che Ho of the past. Boundless light radiated from him, transforming into a golden world that spread out on the ground. Very swiftly, numerous golden palaces rose up from the ruins, extending out in all directions, transforming into majestic castles. These castles were actually exactly the same as the Che clan of the past. After the Che clan was destroyed, he wanted to rebuild it. Right now, with him around, the Che clan would never perish again. He would represent the entire Che clan. His life alone was equivalent to the lives of countless people in the Che clan. Such a huge commotion erupted in the Che clan, an entire city was destroyed. This news soon circulated through the supreme ancient immortal realms, causing a huge commotion. Many people wanted to know what happened to the Che clan exactly. Very swiftly, there were people who said that they saw the Che clan leader, Che Ho. He has returned and he might have broken through to an even stronger realm, comparable to a god king. He returned to rebuild the Che clan and was preparing to fight for supremacy in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Could it be that the power of the 3 major powers was about to be broken? Did the 4th power appear? Such a huge change happened to the Che clan. Most probably, the other 3 major powers wouldn't be able to sit still anymore. In the heaven vault, Qin Wentian was a little shocked when he received the news. The Che clan was actually rebuilt and there was only the Che clan leader alone. This was extremely strange. Qi Yu took the initiative to request to head to the Che clan to probe the situation. If it was possible, he wanted to kill the Che clan leader, Che Ho. However, Qin Wentian didn't agree. He felt that something was amiss. The Che clan leader actually dared to reappear and rebuilt the Che clan after destroying an entire city. It definitely wouldn't be so simple. Maybe it was like what the rumors said, he had broken through and reached another level. Chapter 2003. After Che Ho rebuilt the Che clan, he stayed there and didn't leave. The 3 hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms didn't seem to be doing anything. Until one day, several heavenly deities arrived. They were none other than the prison god clan leader as well as the previous heavenly deities of the prison god clan. They submitted to Yu Changkong and came here to investigate. Looking at this golden city that was even more majestic than before, the prison god clan's patriarch said, "Brother Che, an old friend has come to visit. Why don't you come out and meet me?" In the golden city, a beam of light flashed, incomparably resplendent. After that, it transformed into a human figure. This person was none other than the Che clan leader, Che Ho. He stared at the expert who just arrived as he spoke. I didn't expect that you would be the first to arrive. His voice was cold and emotionless as a weapon. Such a major incident happened in the Che clan, I naturally have to come and take a look. The prison god clan leader laughed. Back then when we joined forces to attack the Heaven Vault, we didn't expect it to end in failure. What's even more hateful is that the Heaven Vault ended our era. I'm sure Brother Che wouldn't forget this hatred, right? What do you want to say? Che Ho's eyes gleamed with coldness, causing people to involuntarily feel a chill in their hearts. Right now, I'm sure Brother Che should already know about the rumors regarding the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Right now, I'm following Yu Changkong. He has the power of 2 God Kings and no one in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms can compare to him. Brother Che, why don't you submit together with me and destroy the Heaven Vault, unifying the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms? The prison god clan leader stated the purpose of his trip here. It was Yu Changkong who ordered him to come here and make Che Ho submit. Che Ho stared at him coldly, a mocking smile could be seen on his face. Back then when Qin Wendian acted against the Qin clan and when he destroyed the Thunder clan, that unrivaled character you spoke of didn't appear at all. Also for the Western world, when we attacked the Heaven Vault, they have always been present behind the scenes but they didn't even show their faces. Could it be that you still don't understand? In the past, you and I were just pawns. The prison god clan leader felt a chill in his heart. Despite their strength, they could only be used as chess pieces. This was truly a lamentable matter. However, this chess game was a game between the strongest experts of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. The winner of this game would obtain the entire world. Thus, he was still a chess piece. He was willing to be this chess piece, and he had no choice but to be this chess piece. Brother Che, there are many helplessness in one's life. You have no choice but to make a choice. The prison god clan's patriarch seemed to be sighing, but at the same time, it seemed like he was threatening him. However, Che Ho only coldly laughed. You are right. There are many things one can't do in life. But from now onwards, I want myself to be the controller of my life. The Che clan was destroyed and I, Che Ho, also died once. The me now is no longer the me of the past. Since we once fought side by side, you can leave. I won't make things difficult for you. Brother Che, don't make things difficult for me. The prison god clan leader spoke. Che Ho had a mocking expression on his face. Make things difficult. Indeed, he did not wish to deal with the prison god clan's patriarch. After all, he was merely a chess piece being used by someone else. Otherwise, he would not have wasted his breath on him. Let's go back. Che Ho turned. The eyes of the prison god clan leader flashed with coldness. He waved his hand and a moment later, the heavenly deities beside him unleashed their divine might. Incomparably powerful spatial blades slashed through space, slashing towards Che Ho. Che Ho's body stopped in the air. When the terrifying spatial blades slashed into his body, ear-piercing screeching sounds rang out. The attacks from the innate techniques felt like they had slammed into the toughest divine weapon in the world instead of flesh and blood. Che Ho slowly turned around. His eyes grew colder as he stared at the heavenly deities of the prison god clan. Michem. That heavenly deity who attacked frowned. He pointed his finger forward and in an instant, a terrifying golden spatial tempest manifested, wanting to tear everything apart. However, Che Ho still quietly stood there in the midst of the tempest. His golden robes fluttered in the wind. Let alone his physical body, even his robes weren't torn apart. This terrifying scene caused the expressions of the heavenly deities of the prison god clan to change, including the prison god clan leader. At the heavenly deity realm, one's fleshly body was truly terrifying. For those with powerful bodies, their bodies were comparable to divine weapons. But if one used heavenly Tao energy to attack, they would still be able to shake their bodies. But at this moment, when the powerful Tao energy blasted into Che Ho, he didn't even need to resist. He allowed the attacks to land on his body and he didn't even move. How terrifying was this? Spatial Tao art? Che-ho's lips curled up into a cold smile. He stretched out his hand and pointed it at the heavenly deity who attacked him. In an instant, a spatial passageway appeared between the two of them. This spatial passageway was directly enveloped by a terrifying vortex. After that, countless sharp divine weapons appeared in the vortex, transforming into a storm that wanted to tear this spatial passageway apart. The expression of that heavenly deity drastically changed. He blasted out with his palm, wanting to open up a path to escape from this spatial passageway. You still want to leave? Che-ho's voice was cold. With a clench of his fist, the spatial passageway began to twist and distort. In an instant, the entire spatial vortex was twisting and distorting. That heavenly deity from the prison god clan who was in the midst of the twisting spatial passageway also began to twist and distort. Senior Che, please spare my life. The heavenly deity begged loudly. However, Che-ho didn't have any intentions to stop. He stood there with his arms stretched out and continued to spin slowly. The entire spatial passageway revolved according to the rhythm of his arm as the terrifying spatial vortex tore everything apart. That heavenly deity from the prison god clan was buried within it, he basically didn't even have a chance to escape. The heavenly deities at the side watched with trepidation. In fact, even the prison god clan leader didn't act. He simply stood at the side and watched as his expression turned extremely unsightly. Yu Changkong ordered him to come here to probe the situation. If it was possible, he wanted to summon Che-ho over. But before he came, he was already prepared in his heart. Che-ho might be stronger than before, but he clearly didn't expect Che-ho to be so strong. Heavenly deities were like ants in his hands. Also, this was just a casual attack. If Che-ho went all out, how strong would he be exactly? Yu Changkong wants me to submit. At this moment, Che-ho's voice rang out. His gaze turned to the prison god clan leader as he coldly spoke, tell him to come and find me himself. I also want to see how strong he, who has the abilities of 2 god kings, is. The prison god clan leader's heart trembled. The Che-ho at this moment was so confident that he wanted to test the strength of a god king. He was like a completely different person, completely different from the past. What happened to him exactly? Where were the others from the Che clan? Why did only Che-ho appear? I don't wish to kill you. If not, you won't be able to walk out of this space. Help me pass a message to Yu Changkong. If he doesn't come and find me personally, don't antagonize me. Also, the Western World and Heaven Vault, wait for me. I, Che-ho, am coming. Che-ho's cold voice was filled with immense confidence as well as hatred. He hated Qin Wentian. If it wasn't for Qin Wentian and the Heaven Vault, his Che clan wouldn't have to hide in a different dimension like a stray dog. He also hated the Western World, using them as chess pieces yet not revealing themselves. Right now, since he, Che-ho, gathered the obsession of the entire Che clan, as well as his divine weapon, he would definitely get revenge for this debt. Even though he was the only survivor of the Che clan now, he still wanted the name of the Che clan to resound through the supreme ancient immortal realms. The prison god clan leader didn't retort when he heard Che-ho's confident and arrogant words. Although they were both at the heavenly deity realm, the prison god clan leader now was most probably already left in the dust by Che-ho. Che-ho's cultivation base was so deep that it was impossible for him to compare to him. If heavenly deities were divided into cultivation realms, they could be divided into ordinary heavenly deities and peak stage heavenly deities like him. They belonged to the controllers of peak powers, and above that would be people like the old sect leader of the Qiankuan sect and Qin Ding. Qin Yuanfeng who just returned might be even higher, nearing the ancient God King realm. In that case, what level was Che-ho at now? Was he already at Qin Yuanfeng's level? Or was he even stronger? Was he comparable to an ancient God King? The prison god clan leader had no way to know because he had no idea how strong those at that level were. As for the controller of the Heaven Vault, Qin Wentian, he could already suppress the Thunder clan leader back then. At that time, his strength should be at the same level as Qin Ding and the old sect leader of the Qiankuan sect. As for now, he was most probably even stronger. Right now, the supreme ancient immortal realms had entered a crazy era. The prison god clan leader left. Che Ho's name once again resounded through the supreme ancient immortal realms. No one knew how he did it or what he experienced. But the people of the world already acknowledged his strength. Most probably, he could rely on his own strength to become the fourth hegemonic power in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The words Che Ho said to the prison god clan leader also circulated through the supreme ancient immortal realms. In the heaven vault, Qin Wentian gave the order for the people of the divine sect to not go out easily. Che Ho might target their heaven vault. Although Qin Wentian didn't know what Che Ho experienced, he guessed that the Che clan might already be finished. In the heaven vault, in the floating palace, Purgatory appeared beside Qin Wentian and called out, "Big brother Qin." Right now, Purgatory was also at the heavenly deity realm. Has everyone been summoned into the heaven vault? Qin Wentian stared at Purgatory's beautiful face as he asked in a light voice. Purgatory nodded. Big brother Qin, can't we just go out and look for Che Ho? Given Qi Yu, Jun Mengchen and Little Rascal's current strength, it's enough to let them go. She clearly felt that Qin Wentian was a little too cautious. Qin Wentian smiled warmly at Purgatory. He stretched his hand out and patted her on the head. The supreme ancient immortal realms is different from before. Because of my carelessness, Little Yi had no way to return. Now, I don't wish to lose any of you. Che Ho is alone, it's not easy for us to deal with him. However, our own targets are very big. Let's just wait for him in the heaven vault. Will he come? Purgatory asked. He will. Qin Wentian nodded. I guess that the Che clan might no longer exist. Che Ho will vent his anger on us. Given the words he said to the prison god clan back then, he will definitely come. Chapter 2004. In the boundless sea region, the Qin heavenly divine sect stood tall, like a divine kingdom on the sea. The current Qin heavenly divine sect was no longer the same as before. Back then when the Qin clan was destroyed, Qin Wentian led his heavenly deity army to destroy the prison god clan. The various hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms all retreated, not daring to fight. Some of them even submitted to Qin Wentian. From then on, the Qin heavenly divine sect's transcendent status in the supreme ancient immortal realms was established. During these 10+ years, more and more experts joined the Qin heavenly divine sect. The test of the sect was extremely strict and the core disciples were still experts from the various factions who followed Qin Wentian back then. Only they had the qualifications to enter the heaven vault freely for cultivation. For those who risked their lives to protect the sect back then, Qin Wentian bestowed cultivation secret realms to them. Among the disciples of the various factions, many heavenly deities were born. However, only the people of the heaven vault knew about this. The disciples of the Qin heavenly divine sect could only see a trace of it. Maybe, this was just the tip of the iceberg. The Qin heavenly divine sect was connected to Boundless City. Right now, Boundless City has long become a subsidiary of the Qin heavenly divine sect. Because of the peace during these years, many experts from the various regions of the supreme ancient immortal realms gathered in Boundless City to admire the Qin heavenly divine sect. There were also people who wanted to join the sect. The entire Boundless City was incomparably lively. The various inns in Boundless City were also filled with customers all year round, discussing the current situation in the supreme ancient immortal realms. On the streets of Boundless City, many experts could be seen strolling about. In the clear sky, a sharp whistling sound suddenly rang out. Many people inclined their heads and stared at the sky. A golden light that was even more dazzling compared to the sunlight reflected in their eyes, causing them to have a hard time opening their eyes. What is that? At this moment, more and more people inclined their heads and stared at the sky. The golden light grew more and more resplendent, blinding everyone's eyes. Terrifying whistling sounds rang out as a divine glow filled the sky. Divine weapons descending from the heavens. Exclamations of shock rang out as the hearts of many trembled violently. Surges of heavenly might descended from the sky. Those beams of light were actually divine weapons, and they descended like a meteor shower. Finally, with a thunderous boom, the earth was torn asunder as many people screamed in agony. A radius of 10,000 miles was instantly razed to the ground. Just the aftershock alone caused many innocent people to die. Boom! 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 Deafening noises rang out continuously. It was as if an earthquake had erupted in Boundless City. It was extremely terrifying. Divine weapon, a divine weapon from the immemorial heavens. Countless people let out frenzied screams. This was a calamity, countless people died because of it, but this was also a grand banquet. The divine weapon descended from the sky, landing in Boundless City, causing the experts here to go crazy. The weak were howling in grief while the strong were excited. They all rushed towards the location where the divine weapon landed. This was a true divine weapon, a heavenly deity's divine weapon. It had the power to destroy the heavens and earth. If they could obtain it, they would be able to comprehend the heavenly Tao energy contained within, allowing them to greatly increase their strength. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, only heavenly deities were qualified to use divine weapons of this level. But now, they had a chance to obtain these divine weapons. How could this not cause them to go crazy? However, how could it be so easy to obtain a divine tool? The divine tool that descended upon Boundless City released its might. Experts below the heavenly deity realm couldn't even touch it. They were isolated by the power it released. If they were to approach it, their lives would be in danger. Great changes in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Right now, even the heavens have changed. They actually sent down divine weapons. An old man in Boundless City inclined his head and stared at the sky as he sighed. His cultivation base was very powerful and he was a hegemonic level world overlord. However, he still couldn't obtain a divine weapon. He could only sigh in admiration. These divine weapons that landed in Boundless City, there were divine swords, divine halberds, all of them were different types of divine weapons. No one knew why or where they came from. Other than the heavens, who else would have such extravagant spending? Such a huge commotion in Boundless City naturally alerted the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, a holy ground in the Boundless Sea region. Immediately, experts from the Divine Sect came to investigate. After that, they sent the news back to the Heaven Vault. The upper echelons of the various factions all received the news and all of them felt that something was amiss. Hence, they gave the order to send experts out to investigate. In fact, even heavenly deities were mobilized. Back then among the experts who followed Qin Wentian, the myriad Devil Islands, Battle Saint Tribe, Namhuang Clan, etc. Their leaders, Bai Qing, Qiyu, Southern Phoenix Matriarch and the others, have long broken through to the heavenly deity realm. During these years, more and more heavenly deities also appeared. The experts who came out from the Heaven Vault and headed to Boundless City to investigate were all heavenly deities from the various factions. Although divine weapons descended from the heavens, it didn't startle Qin Wentian yet. Right now, the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect was a gigantic power. It was impossible for everything to be handled by Qin Wentian. Only things that the various factions couldn't handle would eventually enter his ears. If not, what was the point of having so many heavenly deities around? In the supreme ancient immortal realms, heavenly deities were existences at the peak. It was only because of the changes in the era, the Heaven Vault gave birth to the Heaven Vault army and God Kings appeared in the world, as well as existences close to the God King realm. Hence, heavenly deities weren't so conspicuous anymore. Namhuang Yunshi and Nanfeng Xinga of the Namhuang clan walked out together, heading to Boundless City to investigate. There were also several heavenly deities from the various factions with them. Their divine senses enveloped Boundless City and after that, they flew towards one of the divine weapons. That was a divine sword that shone resplendently and seemed to have the ability to slash apart space. A heavenly deity from Ji Chang's gate stepped out. She unleashed a powerful spatial Tao art that enveloped that divine sword. After that, she clasped her hands together and the divine sword hummed as it directly leaped into the hands of the heavenly deity from Ji Chang's gate. "There's nothing strange," she spoke in a soft voice. "Everyone, disperse and go to other places to collect the divine weapons. Although there's nothing strange, it's best to be more careful in case something unexpected happens." Nam Huang Yunxi spoke. Everyone nodded. They were still very respectful towards Nam Huang Yunxi. She was a good friend who once fought side by side with Qin Wentian, a friend of his through life and death. She had the qualifications to stay in the floating palace where Qin Wentian resided and could see Qin Wentian at any time. Right now, not everyone could see Qin Wentian just because they wanted to. The various heavenly deities flew in different directions, collecting the divine weapons in Boundless City and preparing to bring them away. Although they didn't know where these divine weapons came from, they knew that Boundless City wouldn't be able to digest them all. Leaving them here would only cause chaos. At this moment, a powerful devil cultivator from the myriad devil islands held a divine spear in his hand and was preparing to return. At this moment, the divine spear shone with a bright light that climbed up his arm, slowly coiling around it. He frowned and lowered his head to glance at his arm. A powerful might gushed forth, wanting to shatter the spear, but in the next instant, the terrifying light directly assimilated his arm. His arm continued to solidify, becoming a part of the divine weapon. Not only that, the light was still spreading towards his body. Not good. His heart trembled as he roared, "Quickly throw it away." His voice was like thunder from a clear sky, reverberating through the air. The heavenly deities from the Qin heavenly divine sect instantly heard his voice. They lowered their heads and stared at the divine weapons. After that, their hands that were holding onto the divine weapons turned golden. In just an instant, it felt like they no longer belonged to them, but a part of the divine weapon. Nanfeng Shinga also took out a divine sword. Her arm turned golden, becoming one with the divine sword. "Sever your arm." Nam Huang Yunxi, who was at the side, exclaimed in shock. Nanfeng Shinga's expression froze. She didn't hesitate and slashed out with her other hand, directly severing the arm that was holding onto the divine sword. In an instant, fresh blood flowed. The light from the divine weapon radiated outwards, enveloping Nanfeng Shinga. However, Nam Huang Yunxi's silhouette flashed as she pulled her away from their original location, retreating far away. "Are you alright?" Nam Huang Yunxi stared at Nanfeng Shinga's severed arm. Nanfeng Shinga was currently using her energy to regenerate it. She shook her head lightly. Nanfeng Shinga's beautiful eyes changed. Her divine sense enveloped Boundless City only to see that the various heavenly deities weren't as lucky as her. At this moment, their bodies actually became a part of the divine weapons. The divine weapons vanished from their bodies, fusing into their bodies. Nam Huang Yunxi naturally saw this scene as well. She knew that this unknown enemy was no longer something she could contend against. She pulled Nanfeng Shinga along as their silhouettes flashed, rapidly retreating in the direction of the Qin heavenly divine sect. In the airspace above Boundless City, numerous golden figures appeared. There were many divine weapons behind them. These golden figures were none other than the heavenly deities from the Qin heavenly divine sect. Right now, their eyes gleamed with an extreme coldness, as cold as the weapons they wielded. The people of Boundless City inclined their heads and stared at the sky as their hearts pounded violently. What was going on exactly? Who planned this? It was actually so terrifying. The figures of these divine weapons flashed as they sped towards the direction of the Qin heavenly divine sect. The divine weapons behind them hummed loudly, causing the entire city to tremble. The people in the city felt a sense of suffocation, not even daring to breathe loudly. Nam Huang Yunxi and Nanfeng Shinga's speed was extremely fast. Boundless City was also connected to the Qin heavenly divine sect. They directly retreated into the sect and informed the experts of the sect to activate the divine formation, enveloping the entire Qin heavenly divine sect. The Qiankuan sect leader and 9 Heavens mystical maiden who were in the Qin heavenly divine sect were shocked. They turned their gazes outside and saw the terrifying scene outside the divine formation. Numerous golden deities stood there, their eyes gleaming with coldness, and there were even divine weapons following behind them. Is this the Che clan? The Qiankuan sect leader spoke in a low voice. The Che clan was once the #1 weaponsmithing aristocrat clan in the supreme ancient immortal realms. These divine weapons made him think of the Che clan. At this moment, the appearances of those heavenly deities changed. All of them actually transformed into the face of a single person. Che Ho. The eyes of the Qiankuan sect leader gleamed with sharpness when he saw this. The Che clan leader came to the Qin heavenly divine sect, just like what he told the world. Now, he came. In addition, he could actually transform into different people and fuse with divine weapons. Such a heaven-defying method was something he didn't have before. The him now was simply too terrifying. Chapter 2005. Che Ho was no longer the Che Ho of the past. He was someone who had fused with a divine weapon, and that divine weapon was originally created by gathering the energy of the Che clan. It was a combination of countless divine weapons and divine formations. Ultimately, it devoured the Che clan and gave birth to sentience before it fused with Che Ho, becoming the current Che Ho. Because, he could easily transform into many divine weapons. Each divine weapon was him and was equivalent to an avatar. Naturally, the strength of these avatars would be weakened and wouldn't be able to be compared to Che Ho, who had fused them together. But even so, any divine weapon could easily destroy an ordinary heavenly deity. Those heavenly deities of the Qin heavenly divine sect actually didn't even have the ability to resist and were devoured, becoming a part of Che Ho. Che Ho, who was outside the light screen, coldly glanced at the divine formation. After that, the figures transformed into divine weapons once again. Clanging noises filled the air as countless divine weapons howled in rage. Outside the divine formation of the Qin heavenly divine sect, a supremely powerful divine formation that could destroy everything appeared. This divine formation radiated a terrifying light as countless divine weapons shot out, slamming into the protective formation of the Qin heavenly divine sect. The light screen trembled violently. The Qin heavenly divine sect that covered the boundless sea region was also trembling. Countless people inclined their heads and stared at the scene in the air as their hearts pounded violently. There was actually an enemy who directly attacked their Qin heavenly divine sect? Given their guts, how strong were their enemies exactly? In just a short instant, the divine formation shattered as the light screen dissipated. Some of the heavenly deities inside had heavy expressions on their faces. Namhuang Yunxi and Nanfeng Shenga both had a look of worry in their eyes. The current Che Ho was simply too powerful, causing them to feel stifled. Could it be that his strength was truly comparable to a god king like in the rumors? He had never threatened Qin Wendian before. Che Ho. The Qiankuan sect leader stepped out. He had already joined the Qin heavenly divine sect, but because they betrayed the alliance in the past, although Qin Wendian didn't blame them, it was impossible for them to trust each other as much as they did in the past. At this moment, Che Ho killed his way here. They naturally had to stand out to protect the Qin heavenly divine sect. If not, they most probably wouldn't have a place in the Qin heavenly divine sect anymore. Have you also become someone's dog? Che Ho calmly glanced at the Qiankuan sect leader. Even his mocking voice was as cold as a weapon. What exactly happened back then? Why was the Che clan destroyed? It doesn't seem like the Qin heavenly divine sect did this, right? The Qiankuan sect leader asked. Why did Che Ho's body undergo such an intense transformation? Since you are already a dog, why don't you follow me in the future? I can spare your life. Che Ho didn't reply to the Qiankuan sect leader's question. Che Ho, you are too impudent. The Qiankuan sect leader's voice was cold. A Qiankuan formation diagram appeared behind him, blotting out the sky and radiating an incomparably terrifying divine might. Do you think that the current you can still contend against me? Many of Che Ho's silhouettes spoke at the same time. After that, each of them radiated a dazzling divine glow as they shot towards the Qiankuan sect leader. At this moment, there seemed to be constellations cascading down from the sky above the Qin heavenly divine sect, the radiance enveloping everything. The Qiankuan sect leader roared in rage. His boundless law body manifested as an incomparably terrifying shadow appeared. He was like a supreme divinity as the energy of heaven and earth gathered together. It was like the energy of the entire world was under his control. Day turned into night as the projection of the boundless starry sky cascaded downwards. Boom, boom, boom. Those attacks didn't directly shoot towards the Qiankuan sect leader. Instead, they transformed into divine weapons that locked down the entire space with the Qiankuan sect leader at the center. Under the starry sky, the divine weapons seemed to have locked down the entire starry sky, radiating the most resplendent light. Destroy. A cold voice rang out from the night sky. The light radiating from the divine weapon that froze this space transformed into a supreme destructive might that could reap everything. At this instant, the Qiankuan sect leader felt how tiny and insignificant he was for the first time. Before this power, he basically had no way to contend against it. He could only wait for death. The boundless law body shattered. The Qiankuan sect leader's countenance turned pale. That destructive might that represented the supremacy of the heavens and earth bore down on him. Even the Qiankuan reversal force was useless, it was directly countered. Qiankuan energy basically didn't belong to him. He had no way to use any of the energy in this world. Just as the destructive might was about to descend, at this moment, the space distorted. The Qiankuan sect leader directly vanished from his original location. The night sky returned to normal, the divine weapons were still radiating a dazzling light. In the air, Che Ho's silhouette could be seen. His gaze was cold as he stared at the two figures before him. The two generations of the Qiankuan sect leader appeared there. The person who acted to save the Qiankuan sect leader earlier was none other than the old sect leader. No matter what, you are still a hegemon of an era, the former leader of the Qiankuan sect. It's extremely rare to find someone like you in this world. Now, you have actually fallen to the point of becoming Qin Wentian's dog. Do you want to guard the gate for him? Che Ho stared at the old sect leader as he spoke. Che Ho, you can be considered my junior. Although I don't know what you experienced to transform, can you not see that the era that belonged to you has already passed? The halo of light on you has already faded away. Your fate is already determined. If you still insist on going the wrong way, I'm afraid you won't have a good ending. The old sect master advised. His voice revealed a feeling of having seen through the vicissitudes of life. He, who had enjoyed countless years of glory and experienced countless years, could also see a bit of fate in the unseen world. The era was destined to change, and no one could change it. Since the Che clan has already become a thing of the past, even if Che Ho returned, he most probably wouldn't be able to change the predestined fate. History wouldn't stop because of him. How ridiculous. The era has indeed changed, but the era that belongs to me has just begun. Some people are destined to never decay. Since you are willing to fall, there's no need for you to continue existing in this world. Che Ho coldly spoke, his cold voice filled with killing intent. Even for the old sect leader of the Qiankuan sect, he still didn't place him in his eyes. No one was clearer than him what sort of existence he was. The Che Ho of the past could at most only be considered a part of his current body. Also, it was a very small part. He was born from seizing the fortune of the heavens and earth, using the blood, sweat, and tears of countless people. He was created by the heavens and earth, gathering the spirits of all living things. Powerful divine formations, divine weapons, heavenly deities, all of them were merely a part of him. Could it be that the current him wasn't qualified to become the ruler of an era? What an arrogant tone. A voice rang out. In the air, in the direction of the heaven vault, a figure descended. This figure was incomparably handsome and exuded an unparalleled aura. His body shone with a resplendent light. I don't care who you are. Since you dared to kill a heavenly deity of my divine sect and destroy the grand formation of my sect, you have to die. Jun Mengchen coldly spoke. His entire body shone with a dazzling light, like the most resplendent gemstone in the world. The might of an emperor radiating from him was even more outstanding. It was like he was born to be a king and was destined to be one. Numerous figures flew out from the heaven vault, all of them were heavenly deities. Each of their auras were extraordinary and extremely tyrannical. The people of the Qin heavenly divine sect heaved a sigh of relief when they saw their arrival. This was especially so for one of them. That incomparably handsome young man was none other than Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian merely glanced at Che Ho before turning his gaze to Nanfeng Shinga. His silhouette flashed and appeared beside her. A jade-green light enveloped Nanfeng Shinga as a Dao art manifested. Nanfeng Shinga's severed arm actually grew back. Her skin was like jade, like that of an infant. Thank you. Nanfeng Shinga's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wentian as she smiled warmly, like she didn't really mind her injuries. It's good that you are fine. Be more careful next time. Qin Wentian reminded. Before this, he had already gathered his friends and family into the heaven vault because he wanted to guard against Che Ho. He was worried that the incident with little Yi back then would happen again. But he didn't expect Che Ho to appear in such a manner. In addition, when he didn't know about it, the heaven vault had already sent out heavenly deities. Although many heavenly deities were born in the heaven vault now, the death of each heavenly deity still caused Qin Wentian to feel heartache. These heavenly deities were all core powers nurtured by the heaven vault, they were all loyal subordinates who had followed him for many years. In fact, even Namhuang Yunxi and Nanfeng Shinga almost died. This was simply unforgivable. You came out. Che Ho's cold voice rang out. Qin Wentian turned his gaze over, his expression was as cold as ice, filled with intense killing intent. Back then, every time you appeared, you would grow stronger. Now, more than 10 years have passed. The current you, do you still have the luck you had back then? Che Ho stared at Qin Wentian. Although the two of them didn't have much contact, Qin Wentian was someone who left a deep impression on all the experts in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Qin Wentian's eyes turned golden, capable of penetrating through everything. He stared at the silhouettes of Che Ho and discovered that although each of them looked the same, they were different as well. They all had different Daos. Being able to have so many incarnations and each incarnation had a different Dao, what had Che Ho experienced during these years? You fused the power of everyone in the Che clan? Qin Wentian suddenly asked. Could it be that the people of the Che clan were all killed by you? Or did they die because of you? Che Ho's cold eyes flashed. The Che clan will perish because of you. Because of me? Qin Wentian laughed. Back then, it was always your Che clan that acted against me. In fact, I didn't even have time to take revenge before your Che clan disappeared. Now, the Che clan has been destroyed but you aren't willing to admit your sins and want to vent your anger on me. How ridiculous. Naturally, all of this is no longer important. Between you and me, one of us has to disappear eventually. Che Ho's many incarnations and divine weapons all fused back into one, becoming the true Che Ho. He agreed with Qin Wentian's words. Everything in the past doesn't matter. Now, only the victor can live. What about Qin Yuanfeng? The two of you, father and son, can come together. Che Ho calmly spoke. Back then when Qin Yuanfeng descended from the heaven vault, he gave him a feeling of invincibility. Now that he has returned, he wanted to experience Qin Yuanfeng's strength for himself. Chapter 2006. Arrogant. Jun Mengchen's voice was cold. Although Che Ho's transformation was extremely tyrannical, he actually dared to kill his way into the heaven vault alone. In addition, he even boasted that he wanted to fight against his senior brother and his father. This was simply too arrogant. He stepped out and stared at Che Ho, defeat me first before you challenge senior brother Qin. In the outside world, he had cultivated for over 10 years. His current strength could no longer be mentioned in the same breath as the past. During these 10+ years of silence, the era was changing. There were three hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms, and the people of the world only knew that the Heaven Vault was one of them. But who knew how powerful the Heaven Vault was exactly now? You? Che-ho inclined his head and glanced at Jun Mengchen. Once, Jun Mengchen fought against him in the Heaven Vault and he wasn't able to defeat Jun Mengchen even after a long time. Now, it was actually Jun Mengchen challenging him again. Jun Mengchen truly didn't know the immensity of death. I'll grant you your wish. As the sound of Che-ho's voice faded, his body vanished from his original location. It was like he had teleported as he shot towards Jun Mengchen with lightning speed. At this moment, Che-ho was no longer a human but a supreme divine weapon that wanted to tear apart everything. That beam of divine light illuminated this entire space. The golden beam of divine light seemed to be able to tear apart space itself as it instantly appeared before Jun Mengchen. The gemstone light on Jun Mengchen grew even more resplendent. It was like a world was protecting him. His body was the world itself. He punched out, clashing head-on with Che-ho. The two beams of divine light clashed together and in that instant, the intense light was so blinding that it could tear apart everything. A terrifying spatial vortex appeared as boundless beams of light shot out in all directions. Each beam of light could tear apart a heavenly deity. Qin Wentian stretched out his hand and grabbed at the air. A moment later, a terrifying spatial vortex appeared around the two of them, burying all the beams of light within. The aftershocks of their battle were sufficient to destroy the entire Qin heavenly divine sect. Jun Mengchen's body was flung backwards as he groaned in pain. The gemstone light around him seemed to have cracks on it. His eyes stared at Che-ho as a look of shock flashed through his eyes. Right now, the might of a single attack of his was sufficient to insta-kill ordinary heavenly deities. It was comparable to the destructive might of an entire world exploding. His body had also fused together with the world. He had the world physique and was invulnerable. However, when he clashed against Che-ho directly, he was actually at a disadvantage. What was Che-ho's current body exactly? Nobody knew that at this moment. Che-ho was also very shocked. Other than himself, no one knew what sort of body he had right now. He had fused with a supreme divine weapon in the world, yet Jun Mengchen was actually able to clash head-on with him. The attacks and defenses of the Tao of the world were truly terrifying. But so what of it? Even if it was a great world, he would still be able to tear it apart. Like a bolt of lightning, he shot out once more, appearing before Jun Mengchen. The divine light was still as bright as before. Che-ho's body transformed into an indomitable divine weapon. A world appeared around Jun Mengchen as a glass-like light flashed. Boundless energy from the heavens and earth gathered together, giving him an indestructible body. Bang! The human form divine weapon penetrated through everything, tearing apart this world. Abruptly, Che-ho's human form divine weapon began to emit golden divine flames that enveloped Jun Mengchen's body as well as the surrounding space. The divine flames directly incinerated all existences, containing a world-refining might that caused the entire world to be on fire. No other energy could exist in the midst of these divine flames. Jun Mengchen's world body was enveloped by the divine flames and started to burn. He roared in rage as the world light directly exploded. His body broke free from the restraints and broke free from this space. Below, the world-refining divine flames were like the most terrifying divine formation, continuing to refine the world. Under the might of the divine flames, everything would cease to exist. You aren't human. At this moment, a voice rang out from the heaven vault. Qin Yuanfeng's figure appeared in the air as he stared at Che-ho. You are transformed from a divine weapon. The Che clan is the #1 weaponsmithing aristocrat clan in the supreme ancient immortal realms. You used the entire Che clan to refine a divine weapon, including yourself. Your Daos are all within this divine weapon. The eyes of everyone from the Qin heavenly divine sect gleamed with sharpness. No wonder they felt that Che-ho was like a human-shaped divine weapon. So it turned out that he was already a divine weapon and not a human. Che-ho stared at Qin Yuanfeng as a cold smile appeared on his face. One couldn't help but say that Qin Yuanfeng's conjecture was very close to the truth. It's true that I'm transformed from a divine weapon, but I'm still Che Ho. Not only Che Ho, the obsession of all the experts in the Che clan is in me. My Che clan created the #1 divine weapon in the supreme ancient immortal realms. This divine weapon is none other than me. Using the strength of the entire Che clan to be buried together with a divine weapon. Is it worth it? Qin Yuanfeng sighed. A divine weapon is ultimately a divine weapon. Humans are its rulers. However, your Che clan is actually being controlled by a divine weapon. How lamentable. Lamentable. Using the strength of the Che clan and the obsession of the Che clan as one, I became the strongest in the supreme ancient immortal realms. How is that lamentable? I shall inherit the will of the entire Che clan and dominate the supreme ancient immortal realms. Your heaven vault will be the witnesses. Che Ho laughed uproariously. As the sound of his voice faded, boundless divine light radiated from him. Each beam of divine light was comparable to a divine weapon as they shot out in all directions, wanting to destroy the entire Qin heavenly divine sect. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with a startling divine light. At this instant, the space and time in this area seemed to be covered by his eyes. Space and time twisted as it spun. Che Ho frowned. At the next moment, he discovered that his surroundings had changed. This place was no longer the Qin heavenly divine sect but was the starry space instead. In this place, other than him, only Qin Wentian was here. The attack he unleashed didn't target anyone but vanished into the void instead. An extremely terrifying space-time Dao. With a single glance, time and space twisted. After over 10 years, Qin Wentian was the same as before, transforming again. It was the same every time without exception. Right now, his Dao grew stronger and stronger, constantly nearing the pinnacle. Since you want to fight against me, I'll grant you your wish. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. His 10 million years of cultivation far surpassed the total amount of time he spent cultivating in the past. How could his transformation not be great? Although at his current cultivation realm, it was extremely difficult for him to improve even a single step. If not, the strength of those heavenly deities in the supreme ancient immortal realms wouldn't have remained the same even after so many years. After becoming a heavenly deity, one had to comprehend the Tao. If one's comprehension abilities weren't high enough, it would be very hard for them to advance further. However, he had a natural advantage in the heaven vault. Inside there, he could ascend constellations and comprehend the Tao. His comprehension abilities would naturally be stronger. Qin Wentian has cultivated for tens of millions of years in the heaven vault. He was no longer someone who could be compared to him back then when he destroyed the Thunder Clan. Seems like I have to be more serious. Che Ho's voice was cold. His entire body radiated divine light as boundless divine inscriptions appeared in the starry space. These were true divine inscriptions of the great Tao. They were like a gigantic net that covered this entire space. This golden divine net seemed to be nurturing a chaos divine formation. From within, divine weapons of the great Tao could be seen, gradually taking form. This scene was similar to the scene when Che Ho first created the great Tao. Qin Wentian glanced at the surroundings. This place was covered by the terrifying chaos divine formation. The divine flames and weapons of the great Tao contained an inconceivable might of the great Tao. This entire space was sealed by the chaos divine formation. Divine flames gushed out, shooting towards Qin Wentian. At this moment, Qin Wentian was in the center of the destructive might. The divine flames and weapons of the great Tao gushed over together, transforming into an incomparably destructive might. Ordinary heavenly deities would most probably die if they came in contact with it. Most probably, peak stage heavenly deities would all die here. This scene was too terrifying, it felt like the might of an apocalypse. Even if you can open up a dimension of spacetime, in the supreme ancient immortal realms, all spacetime exists within this dimension. This destructive might engulfs everything in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Even if you hide in a dimension of spacetime, you would still be destroyed. Che Ho coldly spoke. A truly powerful killing move could ignore the Tao of spacetime. Qin Wentian wouldn't be able to escape. You are right. However, why should I hide? Qin Wentian stared at Che Ho's figure. He stared at the incomparably destructive might. His eyes were so calm that it caused one to feel a sense of terror. A formless energy manifested in the air. This was the power of the great Tao. It enveloped this spacetime, seeping into the incoming attacks. Spacetime reversal. Qin Wentian spoke. In an instant, those attacks suddenly stopped. After that, they actually didn't continue to rush towards Qin Wentian. Instead, they flowed against the flow and returned to the chaos divine formation, disappearing bit by bit. The supreme Tao of slaughter vanished just like that. Che Ho's expression turned extremely unsightly when he saw this scene. He roared in rage, "Kill!" As the sound of his voice faded, the killing moves erupted forth once more, continuing to rush towards Qin Wentian. However, the Tao of spacetime reversal controlled the Tao in this spacetime. Hence, a strange scene appeared in this spacetime. The killing moves continued to move back and forth, in a stalemate. It was like they were competing to see whose control over the Tao was stronger and whose Tao was deeper. You were refined by gathering the power of creation of the world, but you have never truly comprehended a Tao. Instead, you were born naturally. Even if you truly control the peerless power of slaughter, I only need to control your Tao. How can you kill me? Qin Wentian coldly spoke. He inclined his head and stared at the chaos divine formation that enveloped this space. His eyes were terrifying to the extreme. After that, space and time split apart as the chaos divine formation was forcefully broken apart from the center by a heaven-shaking Tao art. No matter how powerful the chaos divine formation was, it was ultimately the energy of this spacetime. Qin Wentian used his Tao to sever the spacetime, causing the divine formation to naturally break apart. In the sky, as the chaos divine formation continued to be torn apart, the might of the formation also vanished. That supreme killing force was dissipated by Qin Wentian's spacetime Tao. Although it was the Tao of the past, the difference in might was so great that it could be considered a transformation. Any type of Tao, when cultivated to the extreme, would possess unfathomable might. In addition, the Tao of spacetime itself contained the utmost truths of the heavenly Tao. It was a Tao that belonged to the pinnacle. In the past, the God King of Time wanted to pursue the pinnacle, transcending the spacetime of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Chapter 2007. Che Ho inclined his head and saw that the divine formation in the sky was destroyed by the spacetime slash. His eyes were as cold as ever. I didn't expect that your Tao has already reached such a level. I was born from seizing the fortune of heaven and earth, but my Tao attack was actually broken apart. Che Ho seemed to be mumbling to himself. When he turned his gaze to Qin Wentian again, his eyes grew even colder. There seemed to be numerous supreme divine weapons shooting out from his eyes, directly entering Qin Wentian's body. However, wasn't Qin Wentian's eyes as terrifying as well? With a single glance, time and space would distort. How could he be injured by the divine weapons in his eyes? However, I was born from seizing the fortune of heaven and earth. My true Tao is the origin of the great Tao, a supreme Tao. Do you understand what kind of Tao it is? Che Ho turned his gaze to Qin Wentian again. His cold voice was filled with killing intent. It was like the battle earlier was merely an appetizer. He hadn't unleashed his true strength yet. No matter what Tao it is, it doesn't have the qualifications to make you so arrogant. Qin Wentian calmly replied. Che Ho laughed. His laughter was as cold as ever. Chaos gave birth to heaven and earth. I seized the fortune of heaven and earth and was born from the myriad of Taos. Just like what you said, I truly don't have a deep comprehension of the Tao. However, my Tao is chaos. Chaos gives birth to the myriad of Taos and is the origin of the great Tao. How can I unleash my might in the midst of chaos? Che Ho coldly laughed as he stared at Qin Wentian. After that, a golden-colored chaotic chi manifested from his body, turbid and indistinct. This chi gradually enveloped the entire sky, causing the entire space to enter a state of chaos. Che-ho opened his mouth and spat out chaos divine flames, wanting to incinerate everything. Within the turbid chaotic golden mist, a divine weapon of the great Tao was born, and it shot towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian only felt that the surrounding energy of heaven and earth around him was no longer under his control. Under the might of the divine flames, crackling sounds rang out as they were incinerated. After that, that energy enveloped him, wanting to destroy him as well. Reverse. Qin Wentian used his spacetime Tao. However, in this turbid primordial chaos, spacetime wasn't under his control. Chaos gave birth to a myriad of Taos. The Tao of spacetime had no way to reverse the Tao of chaos. Qin Wentian's eyes narrowed, feeling somewhat bewildered. He didn't expect that Che-ho would actually unleash the Tao of chaos. This isn't the true great Tao of chaos. Qin Wentian silently mused. Chaos gave birth to everything in the world. If this was the grand Tao of chaos, it could easily turn him into ashes. In that case, Che-ho wasn't a character that was close to or comparable to a god king. At the very least, he should be an ancient god king existence or might even surpass them. That was the true ultimate Tao. Although this wasn't the true great Tao of chaos, Che-ho, who was born from the creation of heaven and earth, could still be considered a pseudo-chaos Tao. It already possessed a portion of the might of the true Tao of chaos and was incomparably tyrannical, capable of destroying everything. Qin Wentian pulled out his sword. Sword chi rampaged through the turbid chaos chi, slashing apart the divine flames. In an instant, a billion strands of sword chi manifested around Qin Wentian. The sword chi could tear apart the sky, but it had no way to destroy the chaotic energy here. In addition, Che-ho spat out more and more divine weapons of the great Tao. Each weapon contained a type of great Tao. In an instant, all sorts of Tao arts were unleashed, transforming into a chaotic vortex that could devour all energy. There was nothing that could block it. Behind Qin Wentian, a pair of terrifying eyes suddenly appeared. His eyes radiated a divine light that could penetrate through everything. In the sky, in the 9 heavenly layers, a divine starry sky gaze descended from the heavens. Stop! Qin Wentian coldly spoke. The divine starry sky gaze and the pair of eyes behind him simultaneously projected their light onto the divine weapons of the great Tao. At this instant, all sorts of Tao arts stopped. Time and space seemed to have stopped. This was no longer the pure meaning of the Tao of spacetime. Che-ho inclined his head and stared at the sky as he furrowed his brows. Qin Wentian actually caused the divine starry sky gaze to descend, landing on his Tao art. How powerful was this? It was like Qin Wentian had fused together with the heavens and earth. That constellation seemed to have fused together with Qin Wentian, transforming into Qin Wentian's energy. The divine starry sky gaze landed on Che-ho. Qin Wentian's gaze also turned to Che-ho. At this instant, Che-ho's body seemed to have frozen. He could sense an incomparably powerful sealing energy, sealing time and space, sealing his life. However, Che-ho's hand still moved. He pointed at Qin Wentian. His eyes were cold to the extreme as he spoke, "Your Tao won't be able to seal me." "Is that so?" Qin Wentian coldly spoke. The divine starry sky grew even more resplendent, projecting its light onto Che-ho's body. At this instant, Che-ho only felt that his soul was about to be stripped away, sealed within the divine starry sky gaze, causing him to be unable to move. "I'm transformed from a divine weapon, how can I have a soul?" Che-ho coldly spoke, as though he was mumbling to himself. "Since you have transformed into a human and gained sentience, you are a living being. All living beings have souls, you are the same as well. If not, you would just be a walking corpse, how can you think?" Qin Wentian coldly spoke. His words seemed to shake Che-ho. Che-ho's body violently struggled, but no matter how much he struggled, he was still under immense pressure. "I'm a divine weapon, how can I have a soul?" Che-ho coldly snorted, wanting to break free from the divine starry sky gaze. "Weapons have their own souls, they can still be sealed. Qin Wendian coldly replied. The divine starry sky gaze was another supreme Tao of Qin Wendian. It was a sealing Tao that was cultivated to an extremely terrifying realm. The sealing Tao was all-encompassing and could be fused with many other Taos, transforming into unfathomable divine Tao energy that could transform into heaven-defying divine arts, possessing boundless might. Just like this moment, the divine starry sky gaze manifested, wanting to seal Che Ho's soul. A divine weapon without a soul was an ownerless item that could be manipulated by others. Whoever obtained it, it would belong to that person. Seems like I have still underestimated you. Che Ho coldly spoke. He didn't expect that in just over 10 years, Qin Wendian's Tao had already reached such a tyrannical level. It could even be compared to him who was born from the heavens and earth, seizing the fortune of heaven and earth. Qin Wendian was using his flesh and blood to fight against the heavens. This so-called number one genius of the supreme ancient immortal realms truly lived up to his reputation. I truly didn't expect that even until today, I still can't kill you. Che Ho's body radiated a supremely sharp aura. His entire person transformed into a divine weapon, humming as the power of the myriad Taos radiated from him, causing cracks to appear on the sealing energy that was binding him. After that, the divine starry sky gaze dimmed a little. A bolt of lightning broke through the sealing energy and vanished from this space like a shooting star, as though it had never existed before. Qin Wendian inclined his head and stared at the disappearing beam of light in the sky as he frowned. He couldn't make Che Ho stay. Even after exhausting his entire cultivation base, it was still impossible for him to do so. Most probably, he wouldn't be able to take revenge for the disciples of the divine sect in a short period of time. This Che Ho would be an extremely great hidden danger in the future. His strength was simply too powerful, he was truly a terrifying character. Space-time twisted. Qin Wendian's figure vanished together with this space-time. At the next instant, he returned to the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. Upon seeing him returning safely, the people of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect all had relaxed expressions on their faces. Their tensed hearts finally relaxed. They could clearly see how powerful Che Ho was. If something happened to Qin Wendian, the consequences would be unimaginably dire. Senior brother. Jun Mengchen stepped out, staring at Qin Wendian. Che Ho was born from the creation energy of heaven and earth. The Tao he controls has the shadow of the great Tao of chaos. I can't make him stay. Qin Wendian spoke in a light voice. I didn't expect that even your divine eyes have no way to make him stay. Seems like the supreme ancient immortal realms is already in a period of turmoil. Qin Yuanfeng sighed. During these years, he and Qin Wendian would often discuss the Tao together. He naturally knew how strong his son was. Divine eyes could draw in the divine eyes of the constellations and infuse them into one's Tao. If the divine eyes were projected onto the body of a person, they would be able to seal the soul of that person within the divine eyes, unable to extricate themselves. This was an extremely powerful usage of the Tao of sealing fused with the Tao of spacetime, borrowing the supreme might of the constellations in the sky. Once he leaves, he would definitely be a calamity in the future. He would be the same as Yu Changkong. The Heaven Vault would have another great enemy. Qin Wendian sighed. This was something he didn't expect. A Che Ho actually appeared out of nowhere in the Che clan, transforming to such a terrifying extent that he had the strength to threaten the Heaven Vault. Counter soldiers with generals. You still have to cultivate well and break through your limits. If you can reach that level, so what even if the 8 God Kings of the supreme ancient immortal realms all return? Qin Yuanfeng spoke heroically. Qin Wendian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. His father's words were right. Everyone in the world would pursue transcendence. At his level, as long as he could truly transcend the 9 heavenly layers, even if the God King of the Western Paradise, God King Gu, and the Moon God all teleported back, so what? Naturally, if the God King of the Western Paradise first transcended the 9 heavenly layers, it would be the same as well. In that case, it would be the doomsday of the Heaven Vault. Chapter 2008. Che-ho's arrival caused everyone in the heaven vault to feel a sense of danger. Jun Mengchen was also stimulated and entered closed-door seclusion. The outside world was also shaken because of Che-ho's strength and also because of how terrifying Qin Wentian was. It was rumored that during the battle between Che-ho and Qin Wentian, Che-ho unleashed the primal chaos Grand Dao, manifesting a myriad of Daos and arts, wanting to destroy the 9 heavenly layers and 10 earths. However, Qin Wentian actually fused with the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers. A divine eye descended from the heavens as the Tao of Sealing and the Tao of Spacetime fused together, borrowing the power of the constellations to unleash a supreme Tao art. Only then did he manage to block Che-ho and forced him to retreat. Other than this, Qin Wentian's usage of the Tao of Spacetime was already extraordinary. He could distort time and space with a single glance, traversing boundless distances. With a single thought, he could reach the heavens. Right now, even if he didn't rely on the heaven vault, given Qin Wentian's powerful cultivation base, he would be able to ascend to the 9 heavenly layers to cultivate. The heaven vault was the ruins left behind by God King Shi. God King Shi was an ancient god king, and right now, Qin Wentian, Che-ho and the others were already close to his level. They naturally wouldn't be too far away from him. In the past, there weren't so many such terrifying characters that appeared in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The era changed. Although many heavenly deities of the supreme ancient immortal realms fell, the people of the world still saw an even more glorious era. According to rumors, just the number of heavenly deities born in the heaven vault right now might already be comparable to the total number of heavenly deities from the various hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Although some people felt that this was unbelievable, there was a high possibility that this was true. Once, in the 8 regions of the supreme ancient immortal realms, each hegemonic power only had a few heavenly deities. A hegemonic power with over 10 heavenly deities was already considered a peak power. But now, the heaven vault only needed to reveal the tip of the iceberg to be comparable to the deities of the supreme ancient immortal realms in the past. Also, these people weren't considered characters at the very peak. For example, Qin Wentian and his father Qin Yuanfeng. These 2 people could contend against all the deities of the supreme ancient immortal realms other than the Western Paradise. Other than the 2 of them, Qin Wentian's junior brother Jun Mengchen and his demonic beast already had the strength to fight against the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms in the past. How strong would they be now? No matter how one looked at it, the current supreme ancient immemorial era was only stronger than before. In fact, it was much stronger than before. This was a cruel era. The weak would be eliminated. Even for a peak power like the deity race, it was still the same. They were destroyed one after another, some were annexed, some were reduced to the dust of history. Only those who were truly at the peak could continue to exist. Also, among them, there would be a struggle until the very end. In the end, the primordial king could only be a single power. The Western Paradise was still as pure and holy as ever. Recently, the Western world was filled with peace. Auspicious qi enveloped the entire region as golden light illuminated the area. In this golden world, many people gathered in temples or in their homes, chanting Buddhic chants. Buddhic light radiated from their bodies, permeating the air, transforming into even stronger auspicious qi that permeated the entire Western world. This caused some experts who came from other regions to feel shock in their hearts. The Western world seemed to be changing. With a single glance, they could see that everyone in the Western world was chanting Buddhic chants as though there was a mysterious force calling them to do so. This scene was too terrifying. Although they felt that something was wrong, no one could stop it. They knew that the source of everything was the Western Paradise, the sacred ground of the Buddhist sect. In the Western world, because everyone was chanting Buddhic chants and cultivating Buddhic arts, auspicious golden light permeated the entire world, forcing all evil to retreat. Numerous illusionary Buddhas actually appeared in the sky. These Buddhas stood in the air, radiating golden light, incomparably holy and pure. This caused countless Buddhists to prostrate themselves on the ground, feeling even more pious in their hearts. And in the Western Paradise, an ancient Buddha shadow also appeared. It was like the Supreme Buddha, Lord of the Western Paradise. As the Buddhic light from the Western world gathered, this Buddha shadow grew taller and taller, extending all the way to the sky, transforming into the largest Buddha in the world. Even for people who were extremely far away, they could see or sense the existence of this Buddha. Behind the ancient Buddha, there was a great sun that resembled the great Buddha Lord. 81 halos of light revolved around it, imprinting the images of all living beings. Everything in the Western world seemed to be projected within, including the images and intents of all living beings. This was simply inconceivable. In the Western paradise, many Buddhists sat on praying mats, closing their eyes and chanting Buddhic chants. Even for Buddha lords and sacred Buddhas, all of them were extremely pious. They knew that the Buddha Lord has truly returned. From then on, the Buddhist Tao flourished. Far away in the heaven vault of the heaven region, Qin Wentian and Qin Yuanfeng seemed to have sensed something. They who were cultivating inclined their heads and stared at the sky. Many constellations were extremely resplendent, radiating boundless light that cascaded towards the west. In the air, the image of a Buddha could be faintly seen. Such a scene was simply inconceivable. Seems like the Western sovereign has returned. Qin Yuanfeng also saw this scene. He mumbled in a low voice. After that, his divine sense contacted Qin Wentian as he transmitted his voice. Wentian, don't waver. Focus on your cultivation. Qin Wentian nodded. Buddhists have a cycle of reincarnation every day. Since he is the Buddha Lord, every time he cultivates, it would be a cycle of reincarnation. Although he is returning, it might take a very long time. Qin Yuanfeng continued. The cultivation arts of the Buddhist path were extremely unique. Every time they meditated, it might be a cycle of reincarnation. It might take 100 years, or even 1,000 years. As for the God King of the Buddhist path, his cultivation was like a cycle of reincarnation. No one knew how long it would take for him to truly return. Hence, Qin Yuanfeng advised him not to waver. Qin Wentian also understood that although the Western world was domineering in the past, the Buddha Lord couldn't truly return. If not, many things wouldn't be so simple. Back then, he also couldn't leave the Western world. This time, was the true return of the Buddha Lord. All the powerful cultivators in the supreme ancient immortal realms sensed the phenomenon. After that, they gradually learned of what happened in the Western world. All of their hearts trembled violently. The God King of the universe region has returned. Is the time for the supreme ancient immortal realms about to unify the supreme ancient immortal realms? In a certain location in the supreme ancient immortal realms, there was a palace of darkness that stood at the peak of a mountain. It was majestic and majestic, filled with countless experts. This place was none other than the place where Yu Changkong was currently cultivating. At this moment, at the boundary of the Palace of Darkness, a figure walked over. This figure was none other than Yu Changkong, but at the same time, he wasn't Yu Changkong. Because, right now, his aura was too terrifying. How could it be compared to the Yu Changkong of the past? He was the same as Che Ho, he had long transformed and his transformation was even more thorough compared to Che Ho. Yu Changkong's gaze turned to the west as an evil smile appeared on his face. Was he finally going to return? Only then would things be interesting. If not, his life in this lifetime would truly be too lonely. A resplendent bolt of lightning descended from the sky, landing beside Yu Changkong. Yu Changkong didn't turn his head, he calmly asked, "Have you considered it clearly?" "I promise you, I will destroy the heaven vault first." That figure coldly spoke. So it turned out that this figure was none other than Che Ho. Back then, after leaving the heaven vault, he came here to look for Yu Changkong. That's right. I will head to the Western world and convince them to seize the heaven vault first. After that, you and I will join forces to destroy the Western paradise. Yu Changkong calmly spoke. After that, you will destroy me? Returning to the supreme ancient immortal realms? Che Ho calmly spoke. Although he was born from a divine weapon, he had fused with the spirit of a divine weapon. His intelligence was no different from humans. If you destroy me, I will also return to the supreme ancient immortal realms. Yu Changkong calmly spoke. The words of the two of them were so direct, not bothering to conceal anything. At their level, there was no need to hide anything. Who didn't know what the other was thinking? I'll wait for your news. Che Ho's figure transformed into a bolt of lightning and instantly vanished. Yu Changkong still calmly stood there. He suddenly spoke, "Men, come over." As the sound of his voice faded, an expert instantly appeared. It was actually a hegemonic character of the supreme ancient immortal realms, the prison god clan leader. He bowed and stood behind Yu Changkong. Release the news. Once, among the 8 god kings of the supreme ancient immortal realms, the god king of the desolate region was known as God King Desolate. He was a gigantic heaven-devouring beast that could devour the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers. However, because of this, he suffered a backlash and was heavily injured. The God King of the Universe region took this opportunity and used a supreme Buddhist art to suppress him in the Western Paradise. After countless years, Desolate has been absorbing the God King's energy. Yu Changkong calmly spoke. As for the prison god clan leader behind him, waves of shock rose in his heart. This was another ancient secret. Why did Yu Changkong release this news? Was it to destroy the image of the God King of the Universe region? Gods, Buddhas, demons and devils. Yu Changkong coldly laughed. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, only supreme existences could set all rules, including good and evil. His figure flashed and instantly vanished from his location, heading towards the Western world. He was preparing to see the Buddha sovereign who had just returned. Chapter 2009. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, the God King of the Universe region returned, causing a commotion in the world. After that, a piece of news circulated around the supreme ancient immortal realms. One of the 8 ancient God Kings, God King Desolate, was actually a heaven-devouring beast king. He was injured by a backlash when he was cultivating, and after that, he was ambushed by the God King of the Universe region and was suppressed in the Western Paradise, seizing everything he had. This news toppled the views of many people towards the Buddha. However, some experts were shocked, but they didn't feel that this was unbelievable. At that level, the competition would be extremely brutal. They understood in their hearts that regardless of gods or Buddhas, they were all humans. Humans weren't sages. As the saying goes, a general success was built on the bones of 10,000 people. In addition, if one wanted to ascend to the peak of the world, one could very well imagine how many corpses one would have to trample on. Just like in this era, the Western world, Heaven Vault, Yu Changkong, Che Ho, these 4 were the representatives of the peak of the supreme ancient immortal realms. A war would definitely erupt between them, and at that time, it was unknown how many people would die. Everyone in the world could sense that this day was about to arrive. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, a storm was about to engulf the world. This news naturally circulated to the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect and into Qin Wentian's ears. After he learned of this, his heart turned cold. Seems like his conjecture was right. Little Rascal actually had a powerful origin, and that so-called Lord of the Reincarnation Buddha was actually so despicable. Naturally, Qin Wentian had already experienced the methods of the Western Paradise. Regardless of the Karma Buddha or the Reincarnation Buddha, which of their methods weren't despicable? He thought that if the Buddhists were like the Bodhi abbot he met back then, they most probably wouldn't be able to establish the Western Paradise. True Buddhas weren't in the Western Paradise. The Buddhas of the Western Paradise were Buddhas that worshipped strength. What they cultivated wasn't kindness but strength. Qin Wentian initially wanted to hide this from Little Rascal, but he still found out eventually. Back then when he dreamt of his parents, Little Rascal felt uneasy. After he learned of the truth, he roared in rage in the Heaven Vault and transformed into a gigantic beast, radiating a baleful aura. He wanted to kill his way into the Western world and destroy the Western Paradise. Qin Wentian's figure appeared, blocking Qin Wentian's path. Little Rascal. Right now, the Western world is undergoing a huge transformation. The God King of the Western world has returned, and he would surely possess extraordinary innate techniques. It's probably impossible for you to kill him now. That was a true God King who had lived from the ancient era until now. Now that he had caused such a huge commotion and returned, it meant that he was about to return. Even if Qin Wendian was extremely confident in his own strength, he didn't dare to say that he could deal with the God King of the universe region. A true God King existence. It was even more impossible for them to deal with Little Rascal. They needed more time compared to the Western world. I'm going to devour that bald donkey. Little Rascal coldly spoke. His baleful aura transformed into terrifying demonic clouds. It was one thing if he didn't know of his origins. But now that he knew that he was the descendant of God King Desolate and his parents were killed by the bald donkey, one could very well imagine the killing intent in his heart. I will take revenge for you. Not only for you, I will also take revenge for little Yi. But now, it isn't time yet. Our enemies aren't only the Western world, there is also Yu Changkong who is eyeing us like a tiger eyeing its prey. In addition to Che Ho's hostility, no one knows when he would kill his way to the Heaven Vault again. We need to grow stronger, we need to become stronger than ever before. Qin Wendian spoke. It wasn't that he didn't want to kill. In truth, although he killed the Karma Buddha, could the Karma Buddha be the only target of Little Ye's hatred? The Western world has always coveted his Heaven Vault and once pushed the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms to attack the Heaven Vault. Everything that happened in the past was because of hatred. He was the same as Little Rascal, he wanted nothing more than to raise that place to flat ground. Little Rascal turned his gaze over and stared at Qin Wendian. His eyes were crimson, resembling a pair of blood-colored eyes. Qin Wendian felt his heart trembling when he saw Little Rascal's eyes. He couldn't bear to see Little Rascal like this. He spoke, if you want to go, I will accompany you to the Western Paradise. Roar. A low-sounding roar rang out from Little Rascal's mouth. His voice was hoarse, like he was trying to suppress his emotions. He stared at Qin Wendian's eyes. The two of them have been together for so many years and their hearts have long been connected. He knew that Qin Wendian was speaking the truth and was willing to accompany him on this trip. However, could he really lose his rationality for the sake of revenge and harm Qin Wendian? Turning his head, Little Rascal glanced at the Heaven Vault. Behind him, there were many familiar faces. These people had accompanied him for tens of millions of years. These people were already his family and also Qin Wendian's closest kin. All of them needed Qin Wendian's protection. Roar. With a maniacal roar, Little Rascal's gigantic body turned and soared into the starry space, soaring up into the 9 heavenly layers as he devoured the astral light from the 9 heavenly layers. Qin Wendian could imagine how much pain and pressure Little Rascal was feeling. It was the same as back then when he learned of what the Qin clan did to his father, Qin Yuanfeng. His anger was so intense that it wanted to incinerate everything. He wanted nothing more than to slaughter his way up to the 9 heavenly layers and slaughter the entire Qin clan to avenge his father. But even so, Little Rascal still endured it. For him, and also for the Heaven Vault. Right now, the situation in the supreme ancient immortal realms wasn't calm. The Western Paradise and Yu Changkong were already extremely tough to deal with. Now that Che Ho appeared, the pressure on the Heaven Vault surpassed all other hegemonic powers. Qin Wendian ordered people to monitor the movements of the various powers. The people of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect were prepared to retreat into the Heaven Vault at any moment in case of any changes in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. He clearly knew that if there were any changes in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, it would definitely be earth-shattering. As for himself, he led his experts into the Heaven Vault for cultivation. In fact, he even allowed the heavenly deities of the Qiankuan sect and 9 Heavens mystical palace to enter the Heaven Vault. Right now, the Heaven Vault needed strength to deal with the changes that would occur in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Several days later, a person arrived at the Heaven Vault. The people of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect didn't obstruct him and directly allowed him to enter. Because, the person who arrived was none other than the old man who once used a black cloud to appear in the Heaven Vault, the Grim Reaper. It was rumored that the sect leader of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, the controller of the Heaven Vault, Qin Wentian, had obtained his inheritance. The people of the Qin heavenly divine sect naturally wouldn't obstruct him. Qin Wentian soon received the news from his subordinates. After that, he ended his cultivation and went to meet with the crazy old freak. The appearance of the crazy old freak at this moment was extremely significant to him. Right now, the Heaven Vault was in urgent need of peak experts. "Old fellow, you are finally willing to appear again." Qin Wentian stared at the crazy old freak as he spoke. This old freak was extremely secretive, it was truly difficult to meet with him. "Why? Do you feel the pressure?" The crazy old freak glanced at Qin Wentian. "Aren't you already very strong now? I've never fought against a true ancient God King before. But from God King Shi's methods, I'm still inferior to him now." Qin Wentian replied. "You finally have some self-awareness. This time around, the bald donkey from the Western world has returned. He would only be stronger than before. You have to be prepared. The bald donkey from the Western world has comprehended another great Tao and might initiate a great war that engulfs the entire supreme ancient immortal realms, just like the world-ending battle in the past." The eyes of the crazy old freak were cold. Back then, the world-ending battle where Azure Mystic was annihilated was still vivid in his mind. Right now, the scene of the past might happen again. But this time around, the target was the Heaven Vault. "I won't allow what happened to Azure Mystic to happen again in the Heaven Vault. Old fellow, stay behind and assist me. Let's destroy the Western world together and take revenge for Azure Mystic." Qin Wentian spoke. "Back then when you discovered the ancient battlefield, everyone already had hope for you. They hoped that one day, you would be able to conquer the 33 heavenly layers and unify the supreme ancient immortal realms. You would re-establish the order of the supreme ancient immortal realms and restore Azure Mystic to its former glory. I naturally won't sit idly by. Where is Princess Kitamura? Her cultivation base should be very strong now, right?" Qin Wentian nodded. "Yo Huang's attainments in the soul aspect is extremely high. She also has the imperishable Heaven Lord's treasure. Right now, even if all the heavenly deities surround her, she wouldn't fear them at all. She can fight alone. Alright, tell her to come here. I want to bring her away." The crazy old freak spoke. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed but he nodded after that. He didn't ask too much. This old freak spent so much effort to nurture him and Princess Kitamura, he naturally wouldn't harm them. He took out his messaging crystal and informed Yu Huang. Not long after, Princess Kitamura came over and greeted the crazy old freak, "Senior." "Yu Huang, come with me." The crazy old freak spoke. Princess Kitamura turned her gaze to Qin Wentian. Upon seeing this scene, the crazy old freak's lips twitched. "Ai, her heart is already on someone's side. I'm only half a master, but my words are useless." Princess Kitamura blushed when she heard this. Her eyes trembled as she glanced at Qin Wentian. "Yu Huang, you should go with the old freak." Qin Wentian spoke. Princess Kitamura nodded. She then glanced at the crazy old freak. "Senior, let's go." "What a good maiden, this brat got lucky." The crazy old freak sighed and brought Princess Kitamura away. Qin Wentian had a face filled with black lines as he stared at Yu Huang's back view. He was thinking in his heart, the next time they meet, Yu Huang would surely be even stronger, right? Since the crazy old freak brought her away, he definitely wouldn't do anything useless. It was just that it was unknown when she would return. Qin Wentian had a premonition that when Yu Huang returned, it would be during the Great War of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. At that time, what sort of scene would it be? By his side, how many people would leave him? When he thought of this, an intense obsession appeared in his heart. He had to become stronger, stronger than ever before. Only by doing so would he be able to protect the people around him when the Great War of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms erupted. Chapter 2010. In the Heaven Vault, in the 9 heavenly layers of the 9 heavenly layers, there was a constellation in the shape of a giant Buddha. At this moment, a figure could be seen sitting cross-legged on this constellation. Although this figure was tiny, behind him, an incomparably gigantic ancient Buddha shadow actually appeared, wanting to fuse together with the constellation. Buddhic light shone resplendently as boundless Brahmic chants thundered through the heavens and earth. This Buddhic constellation contained tyrannical Buddhic energy, it was holy and dignified. The figure on this constellation was none other than Qin Wentian. He was cultivating on the constellation, comprehending the Buddhic Tao. Also, every time he went to a constellation, he would create a time-secret realm, changing the flow of time on the constellation, allowing him to have more time to cultivate. A day in the outside world was equivalent to several years of cultivation for him. A month in the outside world was equivalent to 100 years of cultivation for him. Several months later, he appeared on another constellation. This constellation radiated a towering devil intent, wanting to dominate all lives under the heavens. The Tao might it exuded was also extremely tyrannical, exuding an aura of mastering the devil Tao, wanting everyone in the world to submit to it. Qin Wentian cultivated on this constellation for hundreds of years, but only a few months had passed in the outside world. After that, he continued to head to other constellations. For example, the Sealing constellation, the Time constellation, and the Spatial constellation. On many of the constellations, Qin Wentian created time-secret realms. His shadow could be seen on all of them. He could absorb astral energy from the constellations and could condense any astral soul he wanted. Hence, he tried to comprehend all sorts of Taos, wanting to comprehend an unparalleled Tao. If not, in the future when the War of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms breaks out, he wouldn't have any advantage against the God Kings who returned and Che Ho who controlled the Tao of Chaos. Not only Qin Wentian was working hard, everyone in the Heaven Vault was madly cultivating as well. Everyone felt immense pressure. They needed to grow stronger to deal with the changes in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. They mustn't let all the pressure land on Qin Wentian when the time comes. Time slowly flowed by. Another 3 years passed in the outside world. 3 years to the outside world was truly too short, it was merely the blink of an eye. The miraculous scene in the Western world was still there. Everyone in the universe region was focused on the Buddhic path. In the airspace above the Pure Land of Bliss, numerous ancient Buddhas manifested and grew more and more corporeal, transforming into true Buddhas. The people of the world became even more pious and focused on pursuing the Tao. What was even more miraculous was that the countless ancient Buddhas in the Pure Land of Bliss were all chanting Buddhic chants. That direction was none other than the Western Paradise. A miraculous scene appeared in the Western world, the 10,000 Buddhas were all paying homage to the sect. The Western Paradise became even more resplendent compared to the past. A supreme body of the Buddha sovereign appeared in the sky. This body of the Buddha sovereign soared up into the 9 heavens, like he had truly grown beyond the 9 heavenly layers. It was no longer possible to see how tall he was. Everyone in the world said that the Buddha sovereign wanted to compete with the heavens. He wanted to be equal to the heavens and even surpass the 9 heavenly layers. Today, the golden light radiating from the body of the Buddha sovereign illuminated the entire Western world. His fingers that were formed from a special law seal moved. After that, the palm of the Buddha sovereign slowly moved as rumbling sounds rang out. At this moment, in the boundless Western world, countless people inclined their heads and stared in that direction. The Buddha sovereign that was born in the Western Paradise seemed to have a life of its own. He sat cross-legged and floated up. Beneath him was a gigantic golden lotus throne. The golden body of the Buddha sovereign had a smile on it, a smile that could deliver all lives from suffering, gentle and benevolent. The lotus throne floated up, the body of the Buddha sovereign moved as well. The Buddha sovereigns of the Western Paradise, the sacred Buddhas, as well as countless cultivators from the Buddhist sects, all of them circled around the Buddha sovereign, chanting Buddhic chants as they moved forward. A wave of Buddhic chants rang out, enveloping the Western world. The hearts of everyone trembled. They all stood up and chanted Buddhic chants as they followed the giant Buddha sovereign, moving towards the east. His movements weren't fast nor slow, he led the Buddhist cultivators of the Western world forward. It was impossible for him to be fast even if he wanted to be, but he wasn't slow either. Although he seemed to be moving bit by bit, because his body was too gigantic, to the extent that even the heavens couldn't restrict him, every time he moved, ordinary people would need to traverse a very long distance. The Buddha, sovereign of the Western paradise, was heading to the east, wanting to deliver all lives from suffering. This news instantly swept through the supreme ancient immortal realms, causing the entire world to tremble. The changes in the Western world were long known to everyone. The devotion of the Buddhists in that world was terrifying. That was a kind of fanaticism, abandoning everything else, only having pious faith in the Buddha. Hence, the scene of 10,000 Buddhas paying homage to the sect was born. A supreme Buddha body appeared in the Western paradise, soaring up to the 9 heavenly layers. Right now, the Buddha, sovereign of the Western paradise, was heading to the east. How could the world not be shaken? In Yu Changkong's palace of darkness, he stood on the roof of his palace and stared towards the west as a smile appeared on his face. Is that old monk finally going to act? This time around, he no longer stood in the dark like before. He was personally acting because everyone knew that the opponent he was going to face might be even stronger compared to the ancient azure mystic of the past. Naturally, his ambition this time around was even greater compared to the ancient era. He wanted to purify all lives, causing the supreme ancient immortal realms to return to the path of Buddha. In the lower world, in ancient azure mystic, the crazy old freak stood in the air and stared in the direction of the supreme ancient immortal realms. What should have come has finally come. He still returned after all. This time around, he was much stronger compared to the past, and also much more dangerous. Turning his head, he glanced in the direction of ancient azure mystic. The entire ancient battlefield in ancient azure mystic was trembling. In the air, a supreme silhouette manifested. If Qin Wendian was here, he would definitely be able to recognize who this silhouette was. Once, when they came to the ancient battlefield, they once saw a magnificent statue of the imperishable Heaven Lord. This silhouette was none other than the imperishable Heaven Lord. The undying scripture was for the sake of undying. The death scripture could allow the dead to return. Everything sealed in this ancient battlefield could allow the death scripture to unleash its full potential. There's not much time left. I hope you can completely unseal her power. The eyes of the crazy old freak pierced through space and landed on a beautiful figure. His turbid eyes were now sharper than ever before. At the same time, there was also a hint of gentleness in them. That beautiful figure was his hope. The Heaven Vault naturally knew about what happened in the Western Paradise. After this news was transmitted to Qin Wendian, he no longer had any distractions in his heart. He entered closed-door seclusion again, not caring about external matters. Unless the ancient Buddha appeared in the boundless sea, he wouldn't exit his seclusion. Qin Wendian's attitude also encouraged the others in the Heaven Vault. They no longer panicked and chose to cultivate quietly, trying to grow stronger before the Western Paradise arrived. They all understood that this time around, the Western Paradise's ancient Buddha came here for their Heaven Vault. In truth, they only guessed half of it correctly. The Western Paradise Buddha's sovereign did indeed come here for the Heaven Vault, but he didn't come here solely for the Heaven Vault. One day, when that ancient Buddha stepped out of the Western Paradise's territory and came to the other regions, countless people felt their hearts trembling when they saw this majestic scene. They saw the Buddha cultivators of an entire world descending. Who in the world would be able to block them? In truth, they didn't even bother to block them. The sound of Buddhic chants rang out through the heavens and earth, enveloping boundless regions. Many people only felt their souls trembling violently. At this instant, all the distracting thoughts in their hearts were cast aside. They only felt that all their efforts in cultivating in the past were all for naught. For those who lusted after women, they only felt that women were nothing but skeletons. What was the point? For those who lusted after power, they discovered that power was nothing more than a momentary pleasure. Although their subordinates appeared respectful on the surface, they wanted nothing more than to replace them and kill them. What was the point of such control? Was it to eliminate everyone? Why not just let it go? For those who longed for their families, they discovered that all their efforts were for naught. Their wives and children didn't feel grateful to them and would even curse at them. Their children weren't filial and would often rebel. All their efforts were for naught. What was the meaning of life? There were also those who had virtuous wives and filial children. They felt that they had been living for the sake of others in this life, yet they didn't truly live according to their own desires. In the end, wouldn't all their efforts be for naught? This Buddhic chants were like the true truth of the great Tao, it might be able to dispel their doubts. They let go of everything and joined in as well. When they learned to chant the Buddhic chants, they only felt that their hearts were empty and there were no more distracting thoughts. The Western world didn't head east for war. Rather, they wanted to enlighten the masses. Under the Buddhic chants, ordinary people had no way to resist at all. They were directly enlightened and joined in. How strong was the will of an entire world chanting Buddhic chants? How terrifying was their will? They simply didn't dare to imagine. Even for Wu Xiao, who had an extremely high cultivation base, he was doubting himself. Many of them gradually fell and became a part of the chanting. There were also some who felt that something was wrong. This was a lie to them. They fled for their lives, sealing their sick senses, no longer daring to listen as they frenziedly fled from this place. The Western world didn't want to fight, but they still wanted to unite the world. Everywhere they passed by, the people of the world would cultivate Buddhists and no one would resist. After several more years, they finally entered the heaven region. During these years, the entire supreme ancient immortal realms was in a state of upheaval. The people of the world all avoided the Buddhist army of the Western world. They all knew how terrifying they were. The path they took was completely empty, no one dared to stay behind. Everywhere the Western world passed by, golden light would shine as a holy aura enveloped the world. However, other than them, there was no one else. This bizarre situation continued. Chapter 2011. They were about to arrive at the Western paradise. It was impossible to say that they didn't care at all. During these years, everyone in the supreme ancient immortal realms was discussing about the Western world's army. Everywhere they passed by, the people of the world would all be enlightened. No one could stop them. That was an army from the Western world. No one would have imagined that the Western world would have such a powerful arm. They wanted to unify the supreme ancient immortal realms and reign supreme over the 9 heavenly layers. It was said that everywhere the Buddhas of the Western world went, the Buddhic chants would cause Wu Xiao to not dare to resist. Wu Xiao's heart would be filled with Buddhic chants, becoming as devout as true Buddhists. What heaven-defying might was this? It was simply unbelievable. Who could stop them? And now, the Western world was heading towards the heaven vault. Clearly, the heaven vault was the Western paradise's ultimate goal. They wanted to take control of the heaven vault and make everyone in the world submit. From now on, there would only be a single orthodox power in the supreme ancient immortal realms, and that was the Buddhist sect of the Western paradise. From now on, the Western paradise would unify the world. Every step the Western world took would affect the hearts of everyone in the world. Everyone understood that this concerned the future of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Before this, many people felt that the heaven vault had a high chance of victory and could become the hegemon of the supreme ancient immortal realms in the future. But when the God King of the Western world returned and led the army of the universe region to the east, they discovered that they were wrong. After countless years of silence, the God King of the Western world returned. Even before he fought, he already caused the supreme ancient immortal realms to tremble. The Western world has already entered the territory of the heaven region. The Western world arrived at a location 10,000 miles away from Boundless City and was currently advancing towards it. The Western world arrived at the border of Boundless City and was advancing towards the Boundless Sea. News after news circulated into the heaven vault at different times. The hearts of the people in the Qin heavenly divine sect trembled. Qin Wendian finally exited seclusion. In the floating hall he stayed in, everyone gathered together. His family and friends were all here. Many familiar faces could be seen. Clearly, they all knew what they would face soon. "Father, Mother. Qin Wentian called out to Qin Yuanfeng and Luoshan Qianxue. Qin Yuanfeng's expression was calm, but Luoshan Qianxue's beautiful eyes flickered with worry. Qin Kursen stood behind them, her gaze was filled with determination. Wentian, the Western Paradise's momentum is extremely fierce. Yu Changkong and Che Ho might take advantage of the situation and appear together. Luoshan Chuan spoke. The 5 demon sovereigns of the Demon God Mountain stood beside him. Right now, their auras were even more extraordinary compared to the past. In fact, right now, the Demon God Mountain no longer only had 5 demon sovereigns. Behind them, there were still several other demon gods that rose up during these years. Then let's fight and keep them here. Jun Mengchen's voice was ice cold as his battle intent surged. After he was defeated by Che Ho, he went into closed-door seclusion and underwent another transformation during these years. He was even stronger than before. I will devour them. Little Rascal roared in a low voice. He had never seen his parents before since he was born. So it turned out that this was all thanks to the God King of the Western sect. Fight. Chi Yu's battle-intent sword. Behind him, the experts from the Battle Saint tribe all radiated a fearsome battle intent. There were many heavenly deities among them. At the side, the Southern Phoenix Matriarch, the Dark North Immortal Emperor, Changqing the Great, G.D., Bai Qing and the others all brought their subordinates with them. Clearly, they were long prepared for the upcoming battle. Qin Wentian stared at the familiar faces before him. He had no way to predict what the ending of this battle would be. However, he could only do his best to protect this big family of his. In this battle, there might be people who might die. Qin Wentian stared at everyone, his voice was heavy. He didn't want to lower their morale, he was just stating the truth. The eyes of everyone twitched. Qi Yu laughed, I have followed the Saint Lord for so many years, from the Immortal Emperor realm to where I am today. Even if I die in battle, it's still an honor. I have no regrets. Nanfeng Yaoyue smiled. She was originally incomparably beautiful and exuded boundless magnificence. This smile of hers was even more breathtaking. She calmly spoke, Wentian, there's no need to say anything more about the relationship between us. Although the Nam Huang clan is mine, it is also yours. If I was younger and from the same generation as you, I might have pursued you. Once, you have given so much to my Nam Huang clan. Today, the Nam Huang clan shall fight for the sake of the Heaven Vault, for the sake of our future. Yaoyue, your magnificence is unparalleled. If you pursue me, I will definitely not be able to resist your charm. Qin Wentian laughed carefreely after he heard that. There was no need to say anything more about the relationship between him and the Nam Huang clan. If I die in battle, Wentian, you have to help me take good care of Yu Huang. The Dark North Immortal Emperor spoke, glaring at Qin Wentian. Up until today, this fellow still hasn't given Yu Huang a status. Who in the Heaven Vault didn't know about Princess Kitamura's feelings for Qin Wentian? Right. Qin Wentian solemnly nodded. For us fellows from Azure Mystic, we actually have a chance to participate in the battle for the Supreme Ancient King conferral battle. We should feel honored. Changqing the Great laughed, feeling extremely carefree. My Demon God Mountain will fight for our future. If we win, from now onwards, the Demon God Mountain will be the royal clan of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Wentian, even if all of us old fellows die in battle, it's the same. The heaven-devouring demon sovereign spoke to Qin Wentian. Senior, don't worry. If I become the king of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, the Demon God Mountain will be the royal clan of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Qin Wentian nodded. The demon sovereigns of the Demon God Mountain all had ruthless looks on their faces. If they won this battle, they would become the royal clan of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. This would be different from the peak powers of the desolate region in the past. The Demon God Mountain would become the royal clan of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms for generations to come, the core of the Heaven Vault. They still trusted Qin Wentian's character. What a good fight for our future. Wentian, after this battle between our Qiankuan sect and the Nine Heavens mystical palace, can we forget about everything that happened in the past? The Qiankuan sect leader spoke. Naturally, if we win this battle, no matter if everyone lives or dies, the people here, the powers and clans here, will all be part of the royal clan of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. We will rule the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms together. I don't care about being part of the royal clan of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. I only want Wentian Gija's safety. If something happens to you, even if we win this battle, many people here will die. Bai Qing's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wentian. She didn't ask for his safety. As long as he was safe, she would be fine. Silly lass. Qin Wentian stretched his hand out and stroked Bai Qing's hair. In his life, he owed many people. Bai Qing was undoubtedly one of the people he owed the most. Qingcheng, Yi Qianyu, and the others quietly stood beside Qin Wentian, not saying anything. Qin Wentian didn't wish for them to participate in the battle, but how could they not participate? For this battle, they swore that they would follow him to the end. Purgatory and Jialan Chuyue stood behind Qin Wentian, silently watching everything. Qin Wentian glanced behind him. His foster father Qin Chuan, Yi Qingyun, his elder sister Qin Yao, Luo Huan, as well as many of his loved ones. All of these familiar faces were staring at him with nervousness in their eyes. Everyone knew what Qin Wentian would face in this battle. Although he was already so powerful now, no one dared to say that they would definitely win this battle. Their opponents were too terrifying. Back then in the battle against Azure Mystic, how tragic was that? Even Wentian survived that battle. For this battle, Wentian is already so powerful, why would he fear this battle? At this moment, Bai Wuya spoke. He thought back to the tragic battle against the Evergreen Kingdom in Azure Mystic back then. He then spoke in a clear voice, back then in Azure Mystic, there were many great battles. Azure Mystic was conferred the title of king, possessing the Heaven Empyrean Palace and was worshipped by everyone in the world. Today, in the Battle of the Heaven Vault, he shall be conferred the title of King of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Senior Brother Bai is right. For this battle, who in the world can contend against him? The experts here all felt their blood boiling. Let's move out. Qin Wentian turned and walked towards the exit of the Heaven Vault. The experts here followed behind him, all of them exuding an unyielding aura. Many people stared at Qin Wentian's back view. The wind was howling, it felt like he would never return. The great river flows east, the waves are all gone. Geniuses of the past were all laughing and chatting. Why would they fear a battle? Why would they regret death? The people of Boundless City all left, becoming an empty city. They gathered at the Boundless Sea region and circled around it, waiting for the arrival of the Western world. No one dared to obstruct the path of the Western world. They had all heard of the consequences, they would be purified directly. From a city away, the people of the Boundless Sea region could already see the gigantic Buddha statue that towered up into the clouds. It was too shocking, they couldn't see the head of the Buddha statue, they could only see the body. The Buddhic chants drifted over from a great distance. Many experts sealed their sixth senses, not allowing themselves to be affected by the Buddhic chants. As for those with weaker cultivation bases, they have long moved away from Boundless City. They didn't dare to stay behind. For such a world-shaking battle, the area of influence would be unimaginable. If they stayed behind, they might lose their lives at any moment. It was too dangerous. Naturally, there were also people who couldn't bear to leave. They wanted to witness this historical battle. Such a world-shaking battle was extremely rare, there were no records of it in the history of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Maybe, the world-ending battle in Azure Mystic back then could be compared to this. If this battle determined the future hegemon of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, the influence it would have on the future would be even greater compared to the world-ending battle. This was a battle that was destined to be recorded in history. Who wouldn't want to personally witness it? For those with some strength, they couldn't bear to leave. Even if their lives were in danger, they still wanted to witness this battle. However, at this moment, the Buddhic chants gradually turned heavy, no longer resounding through the heavens and earth. It was as though the chants were intentionally retracting. However, the golden holy light didn't fade away at all. It enveloped the entire sky and unceasingly flowed over. The boundlessly vast city now seemed so tiny and inconsequential, covered by the golden Buddhic light. Finally, the Western world's army occupied Boundless City. The Buddhas from the Western paradise arrived at the Boundless Sea coast. They halted and stared in the direction of the Chin Heavenly Divine Sect. This place was the destination of their trip. Just like what the people of the world have guessed, the Western world wanted to take over the Heaven Vault first. In another direction, Yu Changkong and the others arrived. They led many hegemonic characters from the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms, as well as heavenly deities. They arrived at the Boundless Sea coast and joined forces with the Western world. Staring at the Heaven Vault from afar, a cold smile could be seen in Yu Changkong's eyes. This day has finally arrived. He has been waiting for this day for a very long time. In the air, a beam of light descended from the sky. It was extremely sharp, slicing apart the Boundless Sea coast as a golden path appeared. From the Boundless Sea coast, one could see the Chin Heavenly Divine Sect. This figure was none other than Che Ho. He stood before the golden path, his gaze was terrifying to the extreme as he stared ahead. Just like what many people in the Heaven Vault have guessed, experts from the various powers have gathered here. It wasn't just the Western world. The strongest powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms have all gathered at the Chin Heavenly Divine Sect. Chapter 2012. Right now, the Chin Heavenly Divine Sect was already connected to the Boundless Sea coast. Qin Wentian and the others stood within the Chin Heavenly Divine Sect. They could clearly see the experts who arrived. The Buddhist sect of the Western world, the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms led by Yu Changkong, as well as Che Ho. An aura that could suppress the heavens and earth gushed over. This stretch of the Boundless Sea region seemed to have no way to withstand it. They were too powerful. Such a lineup could topple everything. From the Western world, a Buddhist cultivator stepped out. This was a Buddha sovereign. He stood beside the gigantic Buddha and stared in the direction of the Chin Heavenly Divine Sect. He pressed his palms together. Sect leader Chin, how have you been? We aren't good friends, there's no need to be so polite. Qin Wentian calmly replied. In fact, he couldn't even be bothered to feign civility. Since this is the case, I'll get straight to the point. That Buddha sovereign nodded. Sect leader Qin monopolized the Heaven Vault and used it to threaten the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms. You did whatever you wanted, committing evil in the world. My Buddha is merciful and came from the West, wanting to resolve the crisis of the supreme ancient immortal realms. If sect leader Qin has good intentions in your heart, please put down your butcher's knife and convert to Buddhism. The Buddha voice of this Buddha sovereign rang out through the heavens and earth. Golden light radiated forth, appearing incomparably holy. However, when the people of the Heaven Vault heard this, they wanted nothing more than to curse out loud. Only today did I know that the most shameless person in the world is actually from the Western world. What sort of a cultivation realm is this? Only then would they be able to say such shameless words. Luotian Chuan coldly spoke. The Western world traveled to the east, causing the people of the world to suffer calamities, becoming puppets of the Western world. Such actions are no different from Yu Changkong. The evil in the world is nothing more than this. They have already joined forces with Yu Changkong, and it wasn't just this time. They are merely an evil sect wearing the guise of a Buddhist sect, yet they keep saying that they are doing good. How disgusting. Even the heaven-devouring demon sovereign couldn't bear to see the actions of the Buddhas. Along the way, the actions of the Western world have long been known to the Heaven Vault. They actually abducted the people of the world. Right now, with a single glance, the entire city was filled with the Buddha world's army. It was unknown how many people were abducted to attack the Heaven Vault. The people of the world are fools. I didn't expect that everyone would still be like this even after cultivating to such a realm. My Buddhist sect traveled to the east and never killed a single person or beast. Those who were willing to convert to Buddhism were all influenced by the sound of Buddha. That's why they put down everything and entered the path of Buddhism. This is the will of the world, the trend of the times. That Buddhist powerhouse replied calmly. His skin was so thick that it made people's hair stand on end. Roar. Little rascal transformed into a gigantic beast and bared his fangs. He wanted nothing more than to rush over and devour these shameless Buddhist cultivators. Coercing the people of the world and using the Buddhist Tao to control the minds of others, is this the goodness of the Buddhist sect? Qin Wentian laughed sarcastically. The goodness of the Western world was completely contrary to the true goodness of Buddhism. The Tao of the Buddhist sect doesn't control the hearts of people. It only teaches people to let go of evil thoughts, to let go of their evil hearts, to covet power and authority, to let go of their authority. This is the great Tao of heaven and earth. That Buddhist Lord spoke calmly from the bottom of his heart. It was like this was what they believed from the start. Most probably, this was the highest realm of hypocrisy. Qin Wentian and the others were thinking. Did these people really not know if they were doing good or evil, or were they pretending not to know? But I heard that you guys caused countless families to be torn apart. All of them put down their morals and joined you, forgetting themselves, forgetting their loved ones. Is this the great Tao of your Western world? Since they can let go, it means that there's Buddha in their hearts. This is searching for their true selves. How can there be any destruction? Right now, they are all very peaceful, happier than before. The Buddhist Lord calmly spoke. Sect leader Qin, today, my Buddhist sect came here not to discuss the Tao with you. The Heaven Vault is a weapon of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. It can control the fate of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. My Western world is willing to bring everyone in the world to control this weapon. If sect leader Qin truly cares about the world, I hope that you won't resist us. Fuck your mother's bullshit. Some disciples of the Qin Heavenly Divine sect were so angered by the shamelessness of this Buddhist Lord that their hearts wavered. They involuntarily cursed out loud. It was simply hard to imagine that there would be such shameless people in the world. Although Yu Changkong was evil, he was evil. Everyone in the world knew that he would never say that he was good. But how shameless were these bald donkeys? Controlling everyone in the world was like purifying them. Wanting to seize the Heaven Vault meant that they were helping everyone in the world to control it. This bunch of bald donkeys. Their faces are forged with gold. Even great Tao innate techniques can't break through their skin. Many people couldn't endure this. Qin Wentian was also speechless. The heavenly deities around him were all angered to the point where their auras fluctuated. They were the controllers of the Heaven Vault, yet these bald donkeys actually had the face to say that if they cared about the world, they shouldn't resist? It was like the Heaven Vault originally belonged to the Buddhist sect. If you resisted, it would be wrong of you. You would be committing evil, and would be committing the sin of killing. On the other hand, the Western world came here to seize the Heaven Vault, helping everyone in the world to control it. This was the greatest kindness of the world, this was the logic of the heavenly Tao. Let me ask, other than the Western world, who else could speak of plundering in such a magnanimous manner? If I rob you, it's good. If you resist, it's evil. You should just surrender. If the Western world was like Yu Changkong, it was one thing. They could endure it. But when they spoke, they seemed incomparably holy, like they were wearing the robes of a saint. This was truly unbearable. If you want to do evil, just do it. Why do you still want to wear the robes of a saint? This was simply acting on behalf of the heavens. Even Yu Changkong, who was at the side, couldn't help but laugh. These bald donkeys were still as shameless as ever. He laughed. The Western world cares about the world, it's a great kindness. This is indeed the trend of the times. Qin Wentian, if you know your own limitations, you should submit to them. The Reverend of the Buddhist sect is merciful and might spare your life. When Yu Changkong said this, even he himself was laughing. Qin Wentian didn't know what he meant. As for Che-ho, he still had no expression on his face. He was as cold as ever. Although he had gained sentience and his intelligence wasn't inferior to humans, his true form was ultimately a divine weapon formed from seizing the good fortune of the heavens and earth. He didn't have such complicated emotions. If the Western world is so kind, why would they join forces with the evil cultivator Yu Changkong? Qin Wentian asked. There's no one in the world who can't be enlightened. Benefactor Yu has gone astray, but he still has a heart of kindness and is willing to join forces with us to take down the heaven vault. This is kindness. In the future, our Buddhist sect will guide Benefactor Yu to do good. That Buddha Lord calmly spoke. Qin Wentian started. After that, he nodded his head and was finally speechless. So it turned out that Yu Changkong joined forces with them to attack the heaven vault because he wanted to do good. This evil cultivator who committed heinous crimes had a chance to do good. As for the people in charge of the heaven vault, they were the greatest evildoers. Qin Wentian understood that he couldn't win against the Buddha Lord. You would never know where the limits of the other party were. Such shamelessness was truly unprecedented. Yu Changkong also had a strange expression on his face. A faint smile appeared on his face, appearing somewhat evil, but he still spoke. Reverend's words are right. As expected of an esteemed monk. Our Buddhist sect is still willing to give sect leader Qin a chance to do good. If sect leader Qin doesn't agree, for the sake of the world, our Buddhist sect can only act. That Buddha Lord spoke. Reverend, are you not afraid of killing? Someone asked. If I don't enter hell, who would? That ancient Buddha Lord pressed his palms together and solemnly spoke. Qin Wentian nodded. My heart is also concerned about the world. I want to do good and restore order to the world. My kindness is to make the Western paradise disappear from the supreme ancient immortal realms forever. At the end of his words, Qin Wentian's voice was extremely cold. From his point of view, the evil of the Western paradise wasn't inferior to Yu Changkong's evil at all. They used doing good as a lie, controlling the faith of everyone in the world, wanting people to abandon everything and cultivate the Buddhist Tao. This was a true evil. Upon hearing Qin Wentian's words, the Buddhist cultivators all pressed their palms together. That gigantic golden Buddha Lord radiated Buddhic light that illuminated the entire space. At this instant, countless Buddhist cultivators in the city all pressed their palms together and chanted Buddhic hymns. A moment later, boundless Buddhic light flashed, transforming into countless Sanskrit runes. Many heavenly deities beside Yu Changkong frowned. They sealed their sense of hearing and stabilized their hearts, not allowing the Buddhic hymns to harm them. Many people from the Qin heavenly divine sect instantly lost control of their wills. Very soon, some of them also pressed their palms together. Upon seeing this scene, Qin Wentian and the others frowned. The Western world descended with the faith of everyone. For those below the heavenly deity realm, they basically had no way to resist the Buddhic hymns. Shah! Qin Wentian roared. His voice was like a hammer smashing into the hearts of everyone, jolting them awake. After that, he commanded, retreat into the heaven vault. For disciples below the heavenly deity realm, if they joined the battle, they would die for sure. They could only become cannon fodder. The expressions of everyone turned unsightly. Although they wanted nothing more than to fight alongside their sect leader and kill these shameless bald donkeys, the Buddhic hymns were even more terrifying compared to devil hymns. They truly had no way to resist them and could only retreat into the heaven vault. Bzz. A golden bolt of lightning arced through the air, shooting towards the heaven vault. It was none other than the human form divine weapon Che-ho. Qin Yuanfeng coldly snorted. He stretched his hand out and blasted out in the air. In an instant, the power of the 6 paths manifested in the air, transforming into 6 terrifying vortexes. Che-ho's golden fist light blasted out. It was like the Tao of chaos, manifesting a myriad of divine weapons and all sorts of Tao arts, clashing against the power of the 6 paths. In an instant, terrifying cracks of darkness tore through the space, tearing apart the boundless sea below as terrifying fissures appeared on the ground, extending in all directions. In addition, the force of the collision between the two of them didn't stop. The force of the six paths transformed into the true light of the six paths. The Tao of Chaos was still howling madly, but Che-Ho ultimately had no way to advance. Just a casual attack from Che-Ho was enough to shake the hearts of everyone. If the two of them fought in this space, they could easily destroy the entire Boundless Sea region, raising it to flat ground. Qin Yuan Feng. Che-Ho stared at the imposing figure in the distance. He didn't expect that after he seized the fortune of heaven and earth and comprehended the grand Tao of Chaos, there would actually be two people in the Qin Heavenly Divine sect who could stand equally against him. Was this what this era was like? Back then, when the 8 ancient god kings gathered together, it should be like this too, right? But now, this glorious era would end in this battle. There would only be one person who would unify this era.